Chapter 1399. He wasn't in a good mood. Then, he would use it as an excuse to take a day off and rest. Take a day off for, I am the Supreme, currently typing, please wait a moment. After the content has been updated, please refresh the page to receive the latest update. Chapter 1400. Shiman Fafu almost choked, his eyes bulging as he coughed. Are you making fun of me? What kind of idea is this? It's not even a bad idea. How is it a bad idea? Let me ask you, is the root of this matter because she lost her spiritual sustenance after the death of her son? As long as sister-in-law is given another spiritual sustenance, her extreme emotions will fade with time. This is definitely a good idea, the best idea. It's easier said than done. Shiman Fafu rolled his eyes. As we martial artists cultivate to a certain level, our spiritual chi has long turned into our cultivation base. It's harder than ascending to heaven to conceive a child. I have an idea. Yun Yang was unperturbed as he spoke in a low voice. Haven't you heard, Palace Lord? I have a mysterious territory called the Spirit's Grave. It can be exchanged for the chi of vitality, and the birth of creation is nothing to me. Shiman Fafu's eyes shone. You only need to do this. Yun Yang whispered into Shiman Fafu's ears, one talking excitedly while the other listening thoughtfully. How is it? Have you succeeded? Yun Yang wore a perverted smile. Shiman Fafu thought about it for a long time but still shook his head. It's still difficult. Her first reaction when she sees me is like seeing her nemesis. How can she sleep with me? Yun Yang's eyes were filled with surprise as he said, Palace Lord Shiman, the reason you're being hunted by sister-in-law isn't because your cultivation base is inferior, but because you love sister-in-law, am I right? When we return to the palace, capture her directly, then use force, to create a huge incident. Shiman Fafu frowned, deep in thought, considering the feasibility. After that, it'll be a matter of course. I think after you have a child, sister-in-law will be accompanying the child for a very, very long time. Yun Yang's grin was perverted, but Shiman Fafu could not care less as he asked with a frown, is this reliable? Yun Yang patted his chest. Reliable, absolutely reliable. Leave this to me. I've killed one of your sons, and now I'll compensate you with another. It's just the chi of vitality, I'll give you a few more strands. That should do, right? Even if it doesn't work once, there's a second and third time, as long as you see her, grab her by force. Isn't that enough? Shiman Fanfu frowned, his expression changing constantly. Suddenly, he gritted his teeth and raged, Yun Yang, what F***king idea did you come up with? How can I be manipulated by you? Ah. Yun Yang was stunned. Shiman flipping extended his hand and gritted his teeth. You killed my son, so you should compensate me with 10 wisps of life energy. That is the minimum compensation. Hurry up and give it to me. Stop wasting time. Yun Yang was dumbfounded. Let me tell you, it's not because of that. I just remembered that you killed someone and then left. Do you know how much turmoil you've caused? 10 wisps of life energy. Not even one strand is missing. Yun Yang blinked a few times. Palace Lord Shiman, Shiman Fanfu's expression was steely. Hurry up. Do you think the chi of life is like cabbages? You don't have it now. Alright, when you leave the residence of 9 Supremes, the chi of life will be yours. Yun Yang gritted his teeth. No, not now. I don't know you yet. You must have the chi of life if you dare to say so. What if he forgot and went back on his words? It was more important to settle the matter quickly. All right, Yun Yang took out the chi of life and Shiman Fanfu enveloped it with a saint's deific consciousness. He kept it carefully and hollered, the hatred of my son's murder is irreconcilable. I wanted to kill you with a single palm strike, but for the sake of the world, Yun-yang was speechless, his face pale. You have to remember this clearly. This chi of life is the compensation you're giving me. Do you understand? It's not for some random matter. Do you understand? Shiman Fanfu said threateningly. Yun-yang nodded like a chick pecking at grains. Yes, I understand. If you miss a word, Do you understand? Yes, I understand. Arrange a guest room for me, one that's quieter. All right. Shiman Fanfu walked out leisurely with his hands behind his back, following the disciple who was leading the way. Yun-yang sighed continuously in his room. F***ck. I might as well not have come up with this idea. At least the grudge has been settled, it's not a big deal. I've come up with the idea and the chi of life, I've sacrificed so much, but this old thing has actually turned against me. Your father had it all planned out. I was going to force him to help your father get rid of this fox-head state. How did things turn out like this? He had not even had the chance to say it before he was dragged into a corner. Is your face that important? Shiman Fengfu came to the guest room and gave the disciple a space ring to send him away. He immediately used his saint power to seal off his room, and then the entire courtyard. Then, he took out the chi of life that he had just obtained and separated it carefully, separating the 10 strands of chi of life clearly one by one. Then, he quietly activated the life force of heaven and earth, wrapping them up carefully and collecting them one by one, sealing them in his body. Only after everything was done did he heave a deep sigh of relief. After such a long time, he finally had a true sense of relaxation. Not bad, as long as I have these, it's not impossible to have 10 sons if I do well. If there are twins or triplets among them. I have to consider this. With my ability, with this chi of life, I can make 20 to 30 of them. With this thought, he could not help but feel more relaxed. He closed his eyes and continued to fantasize, fantasizing about the wonderful life that would follow. When I go back, I'll kill my way in and subdue her by force. Strip her, seal her origin, seal her cultivation base, seal her mystical chi, lest the woman struggles with all her might. What if she still wants to commit suicide? I have to subdue her all the time. When she shows signs of pregnancy, this trip to the residence of 9 Supremes is already worth it with just this one item. Your father is really going to make a comeback this time. Shiman Fanfu lay down happily, his hand supporting his head. When Dongfang Haoran and Beigong Liuli come, should I mention this idea? However, he would have to discuss it with Yun-yang and let him give it to the 3 of them when he took it out. After they accept it, I refuse to accept it, but I don't believe that they won't accept it. This way, I can make fun of them for tens of thousands of years. The 2nd of September. This day had always been a big day, a good day by habit. The weather had never been bad. Whether it was a coincidence or fate, on this day every year, on the birthday of the legendary, handsome, dashing, omnipotent god of creation, the weather was always so good. Midnight. Just as the first rays of dawn broke through the horizon, the residence of 9 Supremes emitted tens of thousands of purple chi that soared into the sky. At this moment, the boundless purple chi that soared into the sky dyed the tens of thousands of miles around the residence of 9 Supremes into a magnificent purple atmosphere. Then, a thicker spiritual chi filled the air, filling heaven and earth. After a moment of brewing, the purple chi swirled even more violently in the air, swiftly forming 8 huge words. Majestic bound of universe, magnificent 9 Supremes. The 8 words rose slowly, stretching across the sky. Not only did they not dissipate, but they were also slowly flying up into the sky. As they rose, the words grew larger and larger, finally stopping at an extremely high point, as if they were embedded in the sky, illuminating the heaven and earth. The 8 huge words hung high in the sky. Even if one was hundreds of miles away, they could still see them clearly. They were so huge and eye-catching. Everyone who saw the words subconsciously felt the same way. Holy sh*t, this is amazing. This was too shocking, too sensational. Once they saw it, they could not help but want to submit to it, at the back mountain of the residence of 9 Supremes. Dong Qitian sat with his legs crossed, looking like he had eaten sh*t as he cultivated with all his might to maintain the shape of the 8 words. His mission today was to stabilize the 8 words with his cultivation base. It was not just for a while, but for an entire day. King Hell. Dong Qitian cursed as he channeled mystical qi. It's fine if I don't have the chance to be in the limelight at such a grand occasion. What's all this talk about capable people doing more work? I'm still doing hard labor here for an entire day. It was not difficult to maintain the qi without dissipating and even leave a trace in the sky. As long as one had the cultivation base of a royal saint or above, it would be a piece of cake. However, to maintain it for an entire day, even a supreme saint expert might not be able to sustain it for such a long time. In addition, the qi that was condensed this time was extraordinary. It was the purest purple qi. Whether it was the energy or the volume, it was 1,000 times more than ordinary spiritual qi. With the size and height of the 8 words, even a supreme saint expert would find it hard to maintain it. In the entire residence of 9 Supremes, Dong Qitian and Yun Yang were the only ones who could do it. Although Ji Lingxi and Shengguan Lingxiu were improving rapidly and had reached the pinnacle of the Supreme Saint realm, their control over their powers was far from the duos. Therefore, the task of condensing qi and leaving a trace could only be done by Dong Qitian. The greater the power, the greater the responsibility. Was this sentence appropriate or inappropriate to be used in this situation? The first rays of the morning sun gradually rose, illuminating the land and spilling over the universe. The 8 words in the sky hung high in the sky like a rainbow, majestic and magnificent. Seeing that the appointed time had arrived, the gates of the residence of 9 Supremes opened slowly as an extremely dense wave of spiritual qi poured out. The disciples of the residence of 9 Supremes were all dressed in brand new clothes, full of vigor. Today was a big day for the residence of 9 Supremes, a day that no one cultivated. Since the moment the sun rose, an endless stream of congratulatory guests had begun to arrive. The leader of the Pure Sun sect and 3 elders are here to congratulate you. The leader of the Black Water sect and the elders, the Jade Tripod sect, Iron Sword League, countless sects had come to congratulate them. Among them were middle-class and upper-class sections. Although there was no lack of people from lower-class sects, with the residence of 9 Supremes' current strength and status, the congratulatory guests from lower-class sects could only enter silently. They did not have the right to be called out, they had to be at least middle-class sects and above to be called out. The person in charge of calling out the names here was the 3rd disciple of the residence of 9 Supremes, Xiaofan. The child was full of qi and was born with a good voice, so it was a great job for him to call out the names here. However, the other main reason why he had taken on this responsibility was because he was not a person who knew his place. Yun Yang had long asked him to call out the names to prevent this little bastard from stirring up trouble on this big day. It would not be good if there were more complications. Xiaofan stood at the mountain gate with his not quite stalwart body, his face filled with excitement, but there was still bitterness in his heart. It was such a grand occasion with so many people. As the face of the residence of 9 Supremes today, it was glorious, but if he were to shout like this for the whole day, could his voice recover? Could it still be used? He could not help but touch the 3 big bottles of Snow Ridge Throat Moisturizer that he had prepared earlier in his spatial ring. He wondered if it would be enough. He also wondered if he would have time to drink it. As the gates of the residence of 9 Supremes opened, countless sects swarmed in. As for the guests who came, 100% of them were the sect leader himself. They brought along their carefully prepared gifts and entered respectfully with smiles on their faces. Then, they were led by their disciples to their respective viewing platforms to take their seats. In less than an hour, Xiaofan's mouth was already dry from all the shouting. He finally stole some time to drink some water, but he drank a large bottle to moisten his throat. However, he estimated that the crowd of congratulatory guests in front of him had only finished a small part of the song at most. There was still a large black mass of people in front of him. With things coming to a head, Xiaofan, who could not turn the tables, braced himself and continued to sing at the top of his lungs with bulging veins. This boy is doomed today. It's not so easy to show his face. Bai Yexing, Yun Xiuxin, Sun Mingxiu, and the others, who were also in charge of greeting the guests, all looked serious on the surface, but in fact, they were laughing gloatingly through voice transmission. Who asked him to be so arrogant? Bai Yexing said through voice transmission without batting an eyelid. He actually talked nonsense in front of sect leader master, saying that he wanted to defeat all the geniuses of other sects who have made a name for themselves in the Jianghu. Now, he has angered sect leader master, who has personally ordered him to be in charge of the singing. If it weren't for sect leader master, the other uncle masters might not have been able to suppress him. Yun Xiuxin did not hide her gloating face. When he finishes singing, he won't have any energy for at least 3 to 5 days. If we find him to practice in the next few days, good idea. The others' eyes lit up. Sun Mingxiu and Yu Qingheng, in particular, were both older than Xiaofan, and their cultivation base was higher than his at the beginning. But now, Xiaofan had long surpassed them. He kept walking in front of them every day, muttering, "I had a new understanding yesterday. Why is it so easy to break through to the next realm? I wanted to settle down a little more, but why did I break through again?" His mouth was so vile that thousands of people cursed and despised him, and they had long wanted to teach him a lesson. After today, it was obviously a heaven-sent opportunity that they could not afford to miss. Thousand Leaves Sect, Xiaofan's voice was full of energy. The few eldest disciples quickly gave up sending voice transmissions and led the guests in with humble smiles on their faces. Finally, Zhan Wufei, the master of Sacred Heart Palace from the East Celestial Palace, is here with 4 elders and 32 disciples to congratulate you. Finally, the name of the palace was announced. Xiaofan almost burst into tears of joy when he saw them. I didn't expect this job to be so tiring. It's even more tiring than fighting for 3 to 7 days. It's really not a job for humans. The Sacred Heart Palace has come with a grand lineup, and the moment they lead us in is enough for me to catch my breath. To tell you the truth, when I write, no matter how tired I am, no matter how late I stay up, no matter how painful my neck and arms are, even if I have plasters on them every day, I'm still happy. I can write until I laugh, I can write until I cry, I can immerse myself in this world, and I don't even want to come out. I've been writing for 10 years, and this love has never changed. Because I like it. But in these 2 days, this situation has made me want to leave this profession for the first time in my life. It's disgusting. It's normal for readers to report me for being reactionary, negative, violent, and improper, but it disgusts me when authors report each other maliciously. Can't you just write your own book? Chapter 1401. Zhan Wufei led the people of Sacred Heart Palace forward slowly, while the 99 senior disciples of Residence of 9 Supremes, who were waiting at the door, took a step forward and bowed at the same time. Then, Lu Chongman and Cheng Jiejia walked out respectfully and led the way. So far, all the upper-class and mid-class sects had been led in by a disciple, and their seats were not close to the front. Now, Sacred Heart Palace had sent the top 10 disciples to lead the way, and they had sent 2 of them at the same time. The importance they attached to this event was evident. Now, Lu Chongman and Cheng Jiejia were no longer mediocre people. They were also famous rising stars in the Jianghu. Disregarding everything else, when the 32 disciples of the Sacred Heart Palace saw the 2 of them, the look in their eyes changed. A few of them were especially cautious and full of fear, for they had suffered under the hands of these 2, the master of Sacred Soul Palace, Guanmai, is here with 4 elders and 32 disciples to congratulate. Another 2 senior disciples ranked in the top 10 came out to lead the way. The Master of Sacred Origin Palace, Lu Changfeng, is here with 4 elders and 32 disciples to congratulate. The Master of Sacred Divine Palace, Yu Wubian, is here with 4 elders and 32 disciples. At this point, all 4 palace masters of East Celestial Palace had entered. Yun Xiaofan and Bai Yexing exchanged a glance and saw the surprise in each other's eyes. When they looked at their junior brothers and sisters, they were also puzzled. Something doesn't seem right. It's not surprising that the 4 palace masters came, but why did they all bring the same people? Is this a coincidence? That's right, how can this be? There must be something strange. The 3 palace masters of West Heaven's Sacred Palace are here. Look who they are. Hu Xiaofan's voice rang out suddenly. Another important guest had arrived. Duan Muping, the Master of Genius Palace of West Heaven's Sacred Palace, is here with two elders to congratulate. Hu Xiaofan froze instinctively when he heard the names being called out, almost making a mistake. So many people have come from Sacred Heart Palace and the other palaces. Why is the sky of West Heaven's Sacred Palace different from ours? Why are there only so few people? Only 3 of them? Behind the door, the disciples of Residents of 9 Supremes who were already waiting to receive them were equally puzzled. How is this different? Western Heaven Holy Palace, Earthly Talent Palace's Palace Master Shang Piaoyun and 2 great elders have come to congratulate you. Another 3. Talent Hall, Yun Xiaoxin's mood was strange, and she felt that something was wrong. The 3 Talents Palace of the Western Heaven Holy Palace only sent 3 people each, but the 4 Sacred Palaces of the Eastern Celestial Palace actually sent so many people each, as if they're facing a great enemy. What's going on? There must be something going on here. Yun Xiaoxin was uncertain, but her expression remained the same. After all, she was the eldest senior sister of the first-generation disciple of the Residents of 9 Supremes. Bai Yexing leaned over and said in a low voice, "It seems that today's lineup is not simple. I'm afraid there will be a good show to watch later. We may not be the only protagonist today." Lin Xiaoro, who was standing at the side, said in a soft voice, "Do you think Sect Leader Master wants to use this opportunity to rush to the ranks of Palace Rank Gold Celestial Luck Banners? I think the number of people from the 4 major palaces of the Eastern Celestial Palace is just in line with the number of people who are going to fight." The sudden words from Qi Feng caused the eyes of the disciples to almost shoot out. It's possible. Sun Mingxiu's eyes flickered as he said in a low voice, "No, it's not very possible. It should be a foregone conclusion." He made a prompt decision and said, "Get some good materials for Hu Xiaofan to recover his strength later and let this fellow recover. I'll go down and replace him. Everyone must recuperate and be ready for battle at any time. Today is a big day for the Residents of 9 Supremes, so we must avoid all possible mistakes. Even if we're going to fight, we must win." All right. Although Yun Xiaoxin was the eldest senior sister in name, everyone had an inexplicable confidence in Sun Mingxiu, and at the same time, they respected him very much. Even though Yun Xiaoxin and Bai Yexing's cultivation base was much higher than Sun Mingxiu's, they respected him very much in terms of conduct and behavior, and they obeyed him whenever he spoke. Even Hu Xiaofan, a fellow who did not play by the rules, dared to play dirty at most when he met Sun Mingxiu, but he dared not go any further. Among the disciples, Sun Mingxiu's strength was only at the middle tier, but his personal prestige was the highest. He could be said to be the one who had the most say in the Residents of 9 Supremes after the elders. The next moment, Sun Mingxiu went up and replaced Hu Xiaofan. Hu Xiaofan jumped down impatiently and opened his mouth to speak, but his voice was already hoarse. Holy *T. Old Sun is so reliable. I've been shouting for the whole morning. Oh my God, the more important the person is, the more I can't afford to make any mistakes. I'm about to collapse. This is the brotherhood of brothers. Old son, I'll remember you for the rest of my life. Stop talking nonsense. What matters most is to rest and recover your strength. Yu Qingheng reminded him in a low voice, remember to recuperate to your peak state. There may be a fierce battle later. Hu Xiaofan froze and said with a bitter face, what? I'm almost exhausted now, and I wish I could sleep for 3 days and 3 nights. You're telling me there's going to be a battle later? Yun Xiaoxin gritted her teeth and said, shut up. You only have 2 hours to recover at most. Anyway, if you're not in a good state later and embarrass the residents of 9 Supremes. Hu Xiaofan, you'll be completely embarrassed. Hu Xiaofan shut his mouth immediately. Without another word, he took out a few pieces of superior-grade spiritual jade and absorbed the spiritual energy from them in the most efficient way to recover quickly. Now that the matter was urgent, it would be a waste of time to say another word. If I don't hurry up and recover, something will really go wrong with me. Hu Xiaofan was not stupid. He had a more direct perception of the doubts that everyone had, and he not only had similar speculations, but he also had a sense of urgency. When Yu Qingheng said that there might be a battle, he immediately realized that his speculation had come true. Sun Mingxiu's sonorous voice rumbled and shook the clear sky. Xian Qinya, the eastern sacred leader of the demon palace of northern wasteland, and 2 great elders are here to congratulate you. The East Celestial Palace was the 4 sacred palaces. The West Heaven Sacred Palace was the palace of 3 talents. The Demon Palace of Northern Wasteland was the 5 sacred leaders, who were divided into the East, West, South, and Central sacred leaders. As the sacred lords of the 5 directions entered, the scene turned silent for a moment. Probably because the palaces of the 3 heavens were too powerful, the other sects did not dare to challenge them. It was not until a moment later that someone came again. Qian Sheng, clan leader Jin of the Qian clan, the greatest financial magnate in the world, and 5 great elders of the Qian clan are here to congratulate you. 2 white-clothed disciples went forward to greet them, just like before. However, Bai Yexing, Sun Mingxiu, and a few other meticulous disciples found that there seemed to be something wrong with the faces of these Qian clan members. Bai Yexing sent a voice transmission to Yun Xiaoxin, why does the Qian clan look a little strange? Yun Xiaoxin said nonchalantly, no, it's just a financial magnate. What's so special about it? Bai Yexing rolled his eyes and thought to himself, this silly girl only knows how to improve her cultivation base and never cares about worldly affairs. Eldest senior sister, do you think this Qian clan has something to do with Majordomo Qian? Lin Xiaoro asked in a low voice. Bai Yexing's eyes flickered when he heard that. You guys stay here and watch. I'll go ask Majordomo Qian. Today is an important event in the residence, so we must be careful and not be careless. The crowd moved slightly, and Bai Yexing's figure disappeared in a flash. On the high platform, Sun Mingxiu's voice continued to ring out. Clan leader Li Changtian and 2 elders of the Li clan, the greatest family of divine weapons in the world, are here to congratulate you. Clan leader Xikong Jiuzhuan and 2 elders of the Xikong clan, the greatest family of elixir pills in the world, are here to congratulate you. After receiving the guests from the 3 great families, this stage of the reception came to an end for the time being. The arrival of the 4 sacred temples, 3 talents palace, 5 sacred leaders, and the 3 largest families in the bound of universe also meant that the curtain of the ceremony of the residence of 9 Supremes had been completely lifted. One illustrious name after another was revealed, and the people of the martial world who were watching from the side felt enlightened and thunderous from time to time. Each of these names had once shaken the world and shaken the bound of universe. It could be said that they were no longer names, but signboards and legends. As long as their names appeared, they could sweep away the giants of the martial world. In the distance, dark clouds suddenly rolled in the sky, and the wind blew, howling. In the next moment, the dark clouds that covered the sun had already reached the top of their heads. As the crowd looked over, they were shocked to see that the endless dark clouds were actually huge flying mystical beasts gathering in the sky. At the forefront was a mystical eagle. When it spread its wings, it was thousands of feet wide. Behind it were countless eagles, cranes, rocks, and eagles. In short, they were all large flying mystical beasts. As soon as these fellows came, they covered the sun and the sky. It would be strange if the sky did not turn dark. Those huge and densely packed wings had completely covered the entire sky. In the next moment, the leading mystical beast transformed into its human form and landed first, followed by the rest. Only then did the sky become bright again. Sun Mingxiu's excited voice rang out. Tian Fa Holy Land, Tiger King, Eagle King, Bear King, Snake King, Condor King, Leopard King, Crane King, Monkey King, Rock King, Wolf King, a long list of kings have come to congratulate. Everyone was shocked again when they heard it, and they began to discuss it. The Tian Fa Holy Land, which had always been secluded, had actually sent all of its king-level mystical beasts to congratulate them. The residence of 9 Supremes was indeed extraordinarily prestigious. Every king of Tian Fa Holy Land brought 2 experts of the same clan and was led in obediently. Only laughter could be heard. Among them, Bear King's voice was the loudest. His laughter was like thunder. I heard that Brother Yun has good wine here. We must have a good time today. After about a quarter of an hour of silence, another heavyweight congratulatory guest arrived. First, a purple cloud suddenly appeared in the eastern sky, and 3 figures suddenly appeared in the distant sky. A 7-colored glow filled the world as they slowly approached. Everyone held their breath subconsciously. From the looks of it, the people from the 3 heavenly palaces had arrived. They just did not know who they were, but their presence was not small. Purple Qi came from the east, gradually approaching the residence of 9 Supremes. In an atmosphere of thousands of rays and thousands of auspicious colors, golden lotuses fell from the sky, creating a wonderful scene. Such a grand scene. Could it be that an elder-level character has come? Someone guessed. Perhaps it's the offerings. Amidst the multicolored light, 3 figures quietly appeared. Standing at the front was a middle-aged man with a handsome appearance. He was elegantly walking forward. With each step he took, countless golden lotuses would scatter in all directions and spin around him. Everyone who knew him could not help but widen their eyes. At this moment, they were almost suffocating. Never in his wildest dreams did he expect that it would be this person who personally came. Sun Mingxiu's voice was filled with excitement as he called out the name. East Celestial Palace's Lord Dongfang Haoran has come to congratulate with Holy Son Lai Kuangfeng and Great Elder Mo Qing Tian. As soon as this voice came out, the entire mountain range, including the people from various sects and families who were chatting in the residence of 9 Supremes, fell into a silent atmosphere. The East Celestial Palace's Lord Dongfang Haoran. This big shot had actually come to congratulate them in person. This time, not only did Dongfang Haoran come in person, but he had also brought Lai Kuangfeng, the only remaining holy son of the East Celestial Palace. The third person who came was also the most powerful Great Elder of the East Celestial Palace. In the previous battle of 100 Lords United, 3 holy sons of the East Celestial Palace had fallen in the hands of Supreme Cloud. Now, Dongfang Haoran had come in person, accompanied by the other 2 people whose status was second only to Dongfang Haoran. What did this mean? This was a very clear signal that could be seen at a glance. Subconsciously, countless people had a subtle feeling that their eyes were about to fall out of their sockets. Yun Xiaoxin, Hu Xiaofan, Lin Xiaoro, and Cheng Jiejia stepped forward at the same time and bowed deeply. Palace Lord, please follow the disciples to the viewing platform. Master is preparing and can't welcome you. Please forgive me, Lord Palace Lord. It doesn't matter. Dongfang Haoren waved his hand and said, I'll wait here for a while. When those two fellows arrive, we'll go in together, lest you run back and forth. His words shocked Yun Xiaoxin and the others again. Did Dongfang Haoren mean that the other two palace lords who shared the same fame as him were coming as well? Soon, the answer came. In less than the time it took to finish a cup of tea, auspicious clouds rolled in the sky again, and rays of light rose into the sky. In the west and north, a rainbow light similar to the one that had appeared when the people from the East Celestial Palace arrived just now flickered. As the light approached, purple clouds filled the sky, and golden lotuses danced in the air. The stars in the west flickered, and two figures suddenly appeared in the sky. They were Shimen Fanfu and Feng Patian, the holy son of the West Heaven Holy Palace. In the north, the sky darkened, and then brightened again. In between the brightness and darkness, three figures appeared. The one who landed at the front with her hands clasped behind her back was Beigong Liuli, the palace lord of the northern wasteland demon palace. Behind her were the remaining two holy sons. The orchid pavilion of the illusory literary abyss. Dongfang Haoren and Shimen Fanfu exchanged a glance. A feeling that they did not know how to describe surged in their hearts. Why are we the only ones left, while you have two left on your side? Doesn't this mean that our ability to judge and train people is not as good as the old devils? West Heaven Holy Palace, North Wasteland Demon Palace. Chapter 1402. When these two voices rang out, the entire residence of 9 Supremes, which spanned tens of millions of miles, fell into a dead silence. The three lords of the heavenly palaces had arrived at the same time. The shock made everyone feel as if they were seeing stars. Their lives had not been in vain to witness such a grand occasion. When they saw the lords of the Sacred Heart Palace coming earlier, they already felt that this was a grand event that they had never seen in their lives. Who would have thought that there would be an even greater shock behind? At this moment, even the various hall masters and sacred lords felt dizzy and their heads were spinning. They had thought that they had given Supreme Cloud enough face by coming in person, but they did not expect the three lords to come as well. In comparison, the sense of superiority they had felt when they came was gone. One should know that even they didn't have many chances to meet the palace masters of the three sky palaces. When they went to report to the heavenly palaces, the ones who received them were either elders with real power or one of the sons of saints. It had long become a tradition. Now, a newly established sect had received the arrival of these three lords at the same time. It was unbelievable and unimaginable. The three lords looked at each other and smiled. Just as they were about to step in, they heard a shout. "You three, wait for me." As soon as the voice rang out, everyone was shocked. Dongfang Haoren and the other two lords were already the pinnacle of existence in this world. It was difficult to find another person who could be on par with them. This knowledge had long been deeply rooted in the hearts of the Bound of Universe's cultivators. Now, there was actually another person who dared to say such a thing. Everyone looked towards the source of the voice in astonishment. The voice seemed to have come from an extremely far place, but the person had already arrived by the time the words were spoken. A figure suddenly appeared in the sky. In the next moment, he had already landed and was laughing loudly. Python 9. Dongfang Haoren could not help calling out and laughed. "I didn't expect you to be willing to leave the holy land of heaven punishment. Is this considered moving after a long period of silence?" Everyone's thoughts were not wrong. In this world, before the grand ceremony of the residence of 9 Supremes, there was indeed no one who could be on par with Dongfang Haoren and the other two lords. Although the newcomer could be on par with them, he was not human. It was the mystical beast king of Tian Fa Holy Land, Yun Yang's old acquaintance, Python Jiu. Python 9 coldly snorted, "You three old fogies can even crawl out of your rat nest, so how can I not come?" Besides, Yunyang is a young brother that I've acknowledged. Our relationship is very different. I heard that he killed your son. This old man is afraid that you will bully him. Of course, I have to come and be your support. Beigong Liuli laughed and scolded, "You old geezer, you talk too much. Even if we really want to bully him, do you think you can stop us by yourself?" Python 9 grunted and said indifferently, "Perhaps I can't do it alone, but I can guarantee that so long as any of you dare to make a move, then it'll be the wrath of the heavenly beasts, and the profoundness universe won't stop at human cultivators." Upon hearing Mangzhou's words, the expressions of the three palace masters changed. The Xian beasts were all out of Tianfa, and Xian Huang was not just limited to human cultivators. The former had expressed his desire for the apocalyptic battle, while the latter had clearly stated his stance. The Holy Land of Tianfa would actually step foot into the world because of Yunyang. This was too shocking to hear. "Shut up. You're crazy." Dongfang Haran bellowed in a low voice, "What nonsense are you spouting on a joyous occasion?" Python 9 chuckled and said, "Since you know it's a joyous occasion, who are you trying to scare with your hypocritical attitude? Hurry up and go in. Are you going to stay outside for people to see?" The young fellow over there, quickly send a message to this old man. Just say that your leader's big brother, Mangzhou from the Holy Land of Tianfa, is here. Sun Mingxiu was so shocked that his entire body was stiff, but he still managed to maintain his composure. Instead, a clear voice that was filled with enthusiasm rang out, "Oh my! The residence of 9 Supremes is honored by the arrival of the 3 Palace Lords and the Lord Saint of Divine Judgment. Your presence brings light to our humble dwelling and makes us feel honored. Yunyang, please forgive me for not welcoming you earlier." The clouds in the direction of the residence of 9 Supremes suddenly dispersed. Yunyang, the Demiurge Flawed 10, the various palace masters, holy lords, and sect leaders all came out to welcome them. He welcomed them in with the grandest of lineups. Lai Kuangfeng, Feng Patian, Huan Wenyuan, and Lanting felt as if a lifetime had passed when they saw Yunyang again. Each of their expressions could not help changing as they averted their gazes, whether intentionally or not. Now that they saw Yunyang again, the 4 of them could not help but feel a lingering fear. After all, the terror that Yunyang had brought to them was indelible and irremovable. Although they had not participated in the chaos that the other chosen saints had stirred up during the night in the city and had only wanted to watch the show, Yunyang's decisiveness in killing them was still vivid in their minds. Whenever they thought of it, they could not help but feel their scalps tingle and chills run down their spines. In one night, a total of 8 chosen saints had been killed by Yunyang without batting an eyelid. In the face of the joint attack of dozens of saint lords, Yunyang crushed them with an unstoppable force. He could still remember how he felt when he saw the blood light that shot into the sky from afar. He was a god of slaughter. Today, the masters of the 3 heavenly palaces, who had suffered a great loss in that battle, had come to congratulate him personally. The Holy Land of Tianfa had almost turned out in full force. All the beast kings had come, and even the beast emperors had come. Looking at the one who had come last, he seemed to be on an equal footing with the 3 heavenly palaces. The 4 of them only had one thought now: thank God I was just there to watch the show and didn't make such an unbeatable enemy. Otherwise, especially Huan Wenyuan. Huan Wenyuan was not a bad person, but he had a foul mouth. Back then at the Golden Knight Tower, he had insulted Yunyang time and time again, fanning the flames. His mouth had been a delightful one. Naturally, his heart was pounding. This master wouldn't bear a grudge against me, would he? I really didn't want to do anything. I just wanted to watch the show and have a good time. Please don't. An entire hour had passed. The entire residence of 9 Supremes and the surrounding mountains and valleys, be it humans or mystical beasts, were silent. One could hear a pin drop. Those who attended the grand ceremony of the residence of 9 Supremes were all reputable figures in this world. Basically, all the pinnacle figures in the world were invited to the venue. Not only was such a grand event unprecedented, it was very likely that it would never happen again. At the back of the residence of 9 Supremes Hall, in an elegant quiet room, Dongfang Haoran and the others sat down peacefully and said kindly, "Actually, let's sit in the front hall. It's livelier to be together. There's really no need to make such a quiet place just for the 4 of us." Yunyang chuckled and said, "Palace Lord Dongfang, you're too generous. It's better for all of you to sit here. If I really let all of you go to the front, I'm afraid the people outside won't even dare to speak loudly. This is my grand ceremony today, I don't want it to be as quiet as a graveyard. So, it's better for the few of you to gather here, ha ha ha." Shiman Fafu guffawed and said, "You're right. If a few of them really wet their pants, it'll add a lot of flavor to the ceremony. It's better for us brothers to gather together. Brother Yun's arrangement is very appropriate, very appropriate." Dongfang Haoran and Beigong Liuli turned to look at Shiman Fafu together, their eyes filled with surprise. This old man's emphasis did not seem to be right. It was fine that he spoke so kindly, but why did he even call him Brother Yun? What was going on? Dongfang Haoran frowned and stroked his chin, looking at Shiman Fafu suspiciously. He still remembered that this fellow had a lot of resentment towards Yunyang that day. Even if he had put aside his grudge for the sake of the bigger picture, he could not possibly have undone the knot in his heart, could he? There was no need to talk about getting along harmoniously and calling each other brothers. Did he not care about his status? Beigong Liuli looked at Shiman Fafu with a dark expression as well. Beigong Liuli's expression had never been pleasant. His son had been killed, but he, as a father, could only pretend that nothing had happened. He had been holding in his anger even more than Dongfang and Shiman Haoran. Of course, it was impossible for him to do anything to Yunyang based on his understanding of the bigger picture. However, Beigong Liuli had other thoughts. If the demonic race's chaos was quelled and everyone was safe, they might have to fight it out with Yunyang. A man could distinguish between gratitude and grudges, a debt of gratitude and a vengeance of vengeance. However, now that he saw his son, who had also been killed, who had appeared to be much angrier than he was and who was a henpecked husband deep down, was actually calling Yunyang brother, Beigong Liuli felt that her brain was not enough to process the situation. She could not understand it at all. Facing their baffled gazes, Shiman Fafu could not help blushing and said fiercely, "What are you looking at? Haven't you seen the imposing manner of an expert?" Stars flickered in Dongfang Haoran's eyes as his thoughts spun. After a long while, he said faintly, "Remember to talk to us after this." Shiman Fafu snorted and did not speak. After a long while, he said, "All right." It was never a good thing to take everything for oneself, especially when the other 2 were on par with him. They were ruthless characters who could ignore their pride when the time came. The sun would never stop for anyone or anything. It continued to crawl slowly in the sky. It was almost noon. Suddenly, the bell of the residence of 9 Supremes rumbled and could be heard from all directions. There was already a sea of people in front of the grandstand. Even Zhan Wufei and other prominent figures were already standing in front of the grandstand. Everyone's gaze was focused on a huge stage. The stage was the peak of the mountain. At the top, a magnificent silver celestial luck banner fluttered in the wind, radiating thousands of silver rays that were dazzling. The bell rang for a long time while the sunlight grew warmer and more intense, finally shifting to the center. The auspicious hour has arrived. Heaven's Inquisition Gu Chaoyang, the MC, shouted, "The sun is in the middle of the sky. The residence of 9 Supremes is at its zenith. The auspicious hour has arrived. The ceremony begins now." In the next moment, he gathered all his mystical chi and said loudly, let us welcome Lord Dongfang Haoran, the master of the East Celestial Palace, Lord Shiman Fafu, the master of the West Heaven Saint Palace, Lord Beigong Liuli, the master of the Northern Wasteland Demonic Palace, and Lord Mangjiu, the master of Tian Fa Holy Land. Silhouettes flashed. Before Gu Chaoyang's voice echoed in the air, Dongfang Haoran, Mangjiu, and the other three had already appeared in front of the grandstand. East, west, north, and south. Everyone bowed at the same time. They were expressing their deepest respect to these four supreme existences of this world. Let us welcome the Master of the Residence of Nine Supremes, Lord Heaven Yellow Supreme Cloud, to your position under the Celestial Luck Banner. Under the Silver Celestial Luck Banner, a silhouette had appeared out of nowhere. The man was dressed in fluttering purple robes and wore a purple mask. He stood tall and straight, looking indescribably dashing. Let us welcome the residents of Nine Supremes Shi Wuchen and Luo Dujiang. Shi Wuchen and the rest, together with Qian Duo, ascended the stage in a line and sat around the residents of Nine Supreme Celestial Luck Banner. Everyone looked unprecedentedly solemn. Let us welcome the leader of the Phoenix Cry sect, Ping Zhanyue, the leader of the residents of Nine Supremes, Ji Lingxi, Shengguan Lingxiu, and the leader of the General Commerce League, Xiao Wui, with their celestial luck. In the eastern sky, a silver gleam flickered. It was Xiao Wui, holding a silver celestial luck banner with both hands as he approached slowly. In the western sky, a green gleam flickered as well. Ping Zhanyue raised the green celestial luck banner with both hands, her robes fluttering. In the southern sky, a green gleam flickered as well. Ji Lingxi and Shengguan Lingxiu stood on the left and right, holding the celestial luck banner together like fairies. The most important part of the merging ceremony was to combine the celestial luck banners of each school. However, when it came to combining the celestial luck banners, the leader of the school had to personally hold the banner and gather the faith of the masses. Only then could the celestial luck flow and belong to the merging school. Majestic Heaven Yellow, Magnificent Nine Supremes. Gu Chaoyang sang loudly. Purple chi surged around Yunyang as the residents of Nine Supreme Celestial Luck Banner left the ground and flew 3,000 feet, turning into a celestial luck banner that was 10,000 feet long in the air. The silver light on the banner was even more intense, more than 100 times stronger than before. At this moment, everyone felt a piercing pain in their eyes, unable to look straight at it. In spite of this, they were not frightened. Instead, they could faintly sense an aura that belonged to the Tao. Combine, the celestial luck banner. Gu Chaoyang bellowed again. Ji Lingxi, Shengguan Lingxiu, Ping Zhanyue, and Xiao Wui flew up at the same time, sending the celestial luck banners they were carrying diagonally towards the residents of Nine Supreme Celestial Luck Banner in the air. At the end of their momentum, the four of them let go at the same time and stood quietly in the air. Only the three celestial luck banners continued to fly towards the residents of Nine Supreme Celestial Luck Banner. The two green celestial luck banners of the Phoenix Cry sect and the residents of Nine Supremes approached the residents of Nine Supreme Silver Celestial Luck Banner first. With a soft whooshing sound, they began to spin rapidly around the Silver Celestial Luck Banner. In the blink of an eye, the two flags had already rotated 999 times. The residents of Nine Supreme Celestial Luck Banner's silver light shone brightly once more, illuminating the heaven and earth and shooting straight into the sky. In the instant the silver light shone brightly, the two green celestial luck banners disappeared. The crowd watched the magnificent scene with rapt attention. The height of the residents of Nine Supreme Celestial Luck Banner did not change, but the banner's surface had abruptly doubled in size. The silver light that flowed on the banner's surface was more tangible, but it was no longer glaring. Then, the General Commerce League Celestial Luck Banner that had stopped in the air a little later than the previous two green Celestial Luck Banners moved once more, approaching slowly. Two silver Celestial Luck Banners, one large and one small, fluttered in the air before they fell silent and remained motionless. In a flash, the residents of 9 Supreme Celestial Luck Banners' silver light soared once more while the General Commerce League Celestial Luck Banners grew dimmer. After about 100 breaths, the nearly dull Celestial Luck Banners rushed into the residence of 9 Supreme Celestial Luck Banner and vanished. The residence of 9 Supreme Celestial Luck Flag, which had received the return of the 3 flags, did not stop moving. With a swoosh, it soared 1,000 feet into the sky, and then, the silver light gushed out again. No one present could see the Celestial Luck Flag clearly now. Only the silver light that pierced through heaven and earth shone upon the vast sky and illuminated the universe. Chapter 1403. It was also at this moment that Yunyang felt a slight movement in his meridians. His dantian hummed violently as all the mystical qi in his body rose abruptly, surging in his meridians like thousands of horses breaking free from their reins. At the same time, a large amount of pure spiritual qi came from all directions and gathered in this direction like a howling gale. All the disciples of the residents of 9 Supremes, the General Commerce League, the 9th residents of Supremes, and the Phoenix Cry sect. Of course, all of them could now be called the residents of 9 Supremes' disciples. All of them felt their dantian's restlessness as spiritual qi surged and converged to form a spiritual tide that grew stronger and stronger, charging at the bottleneck of their bodies spontaneously. Shengguan Lingxiu, Ji Lingxi, Duckweed, Yu Wui, Lang Fan Tian, and the others felt the same as well. The spiritual qi tide in their bodies grew stronger as well, while the spiritual qi storm outside continued to fuse with it. Those present today were human ace cultivators and cultivation experts. How could they not know that the residents of 9 Supreme Celestial Luck Banners had fused with 3 high-quality Celestial Luck Banners due to the merger? Now that the spiritual qi was nourishing, all the disciples of the residents of 9 Supremes were greatly benefited. They could not help but feel envious, wishing that they could join the residents of 9 Supremes at once to share the glory before them. As far as the eye could see, the aura of all the residents of 9 Supremes' disciples was condensing and rising rapidly. Many of them who were on the verge of breaking through broke through right away, and after the breakthrough, their spiritual accumulations continued to rise, as if there was still room for improvement. Silver threads invisible to the naked eye connected each person to the Celestial Luck Banner in the sky. As the spiritual qi continued to pour into the residents of 9 Supremes, those who came to watch the ceremony felt suffocated despite being envious. As thoughts flashed through their minds, they seized the opportunity of the spiritual qi storm to enter a state of cultivation. Everyone felt the mystical qi in their bodies growing at a speed visible to the naked eye. In fact, this was the main reason why everyone came after the invitation was sent out. Even those who did not receive an invitation rushed to come. This kind of grand ceremony was a great opportunity even for the spectators. However, none of the people present had expected that the gains from this trip would far exceed their imagination. Although it couldn't be said that they had reached the heavens in a single step, after today's experience, they would be able to improve a lot compared to before. Many people who had been stuck on the verge of breaking through for half their lives actually had a chance to use this opportunity to break through. The spiritual energy storm became more and more intense, as if it was endless and endless. Everyone present, whether they were from the residents of 9 Supremes or not, closed their eyes and cultivated with all their might to improve their cultivation base. No one would ignore this opportunity and waste it. Of course, this was excluding high-level figures like Dongfang Haoren. Shimen Fanfu couldn't help but stare at the heaven-earth spiritual qi that was pouring in like a leak. The density of the heaven-earth spiritual qi is a little too exaggerated. This level is already not inferior to my Western Heaven Sacred Palace. Why is it still pouring in? This is another eye-opener for the residents of 9 Supremes to be able to withstand such a large amount of heaven-earth spiritual qi. Beigong Liuli sensed for a moment and said, "It is indeed an eye-opener. I can't believe that other sects apart from the three heavenly palaces can actually have such a high density of heaven-earth spiritual qi. However, I'm afraid it's not necessarily still lacking compared to your Western Heaven Sacred Palace. I see that there's still more than enough heaven-earth spiritual qi. When it's all poured in, both sides should be about the same. Dongfang Haoran said indifferently, I'm more inclined to believe that the residents of Nine Supremes' spiritual qi will be a little more than that when the heaven-earth spiritual qi has finished converging. Besides, this is only the beginning. After an ordinary merging ceremony, the process of forcefully drawing the heaven and earth spiritual qi to gather the spiritual veins will only last about 2 hours. However, the residents of Nine Supremes has merged 3 sects this time, and they're all high-leveled sections. I feel that this merging process will take at least 4 hours, won't it? According to the level of heaven and earth spiritual qi, after 4 hours, not only will the spiritual vein below be completely formed, it will also be able to connect to all directions. In addition to the residents of Nine Supremes' original foundation, Yun Yang's Saint Lord cultivation base, and the providence of his 2 fiancées, Dongfang Haoran exhaled. It's only reasonable that it surpasses the 3 heavenly palaces' spirit qi level. No way. Shimen Fengfu and Beigong Liuli were dumbfounded. Look under my feet. Dongfang Haoran gestured. Both of them looked down and saw that on the ground hundreds of feet below Dongfang Haoran, there was a layer of purple mist rising from the crack of a rock. Both of them could see it clearly. This is amethyst ginseng? Dongfang Haoran said, yes, and this is just a seed I threw in at the beginning. The amethyst ginseng can only germinate and grow in a relatively confined space where the spiritual qi is so dense that it can liquefy. It will take at least 3 years for it to germinate and grow out of the ground. But the continuous nourishment of spiritual qi and qi of Tao can speed up this process. From the time I threw the seed, the amethyst ginseng has already sprouted and rushed out of the ground, even its root system has formed. If it continues to grow at this speed, when the spiritual qi storm stops, this amethyst ginseng will at least be able to bloom. Dongfang Haoran sighed. If you didn't see it with your own eyes, would you dare imagine such a thing? You probably wouldn't even be able to dream of it. This is simply a phenomenon beyond our understanding. The 2 palace lords could not help but stare at him, speechless for a long time. Without Dongfang Haoran saying anything, how could they not know that the amethyst ginseng was an unusual spiritual herb, an anomaly among the treasures of heaven and earth? The more spiritual qi there was, the faster it would grow. According to normal growth conditions, an amethyst ginseng would need at least 1,000 years to grow from germination to maturity. However, if an amethyst ginseng seed was planted in the center of a large spiritual vein, it could grow from germination to maturity within 10 days. Therefore, they had long known that the amethyst ginseng would grow faster in a place with dense spiritual qi. There was even a legend that there was once an expert who had opened up a spiritual space and scattered a large area of amethyst ginseng seeds. After scattering, the seeds would mature. As the seeds continued to mature, within an hour, millions of amethyst ginseng of the highest quality would be harvested. Of course, this was only a legend. The bound of universe did not have such a terrifying spiritual qi land. However, this was a well-known characteristic of the amethyst ginseng. And now, an amethyst profound ginseng that was growing at a visible rate was right in front of them. Even though it was far from the legendary level, it still gave Shimen Fafu and Beigong Liuli an inexplicable shock. It turned out that a legend was not only a legend, but a legend could also come true. Although they could not achieve such a fast growth rate in their own palaces, the residents of Nine Supremes had actually achieved it. Even though it was an abnormal time when the spiritual qi of heaven and earth converged, it was still shocking and awe-inspiring. Python 9 did not say a word. His face was filled with kindness as he stared at the celestial luck banner that was still shining with silver light in the sky, his eyes full of admiration. This little brother is really extraordinary. About 2 hours later, a strange phenomenon appeared in the sky above the residence of 9 Supremes. It was a heavy downpour. Perhaps it was because the spiritual qi was too dense that even though countless cultivators were absorbing it wantonly, they were still unable to make ends meet. As a result, clouds were gradually formed and the spiritual qi rain was born. Yun-yang, who had long been prepared for this, controlled all the water sources in the residence of 9 Supremes with his will at once and sent them out of the residence of 9 Supremes. Although the original water source of the residence of 9 Supremes could be considered spiritual liquid, it was still not pure spiritual liquid. At least, compared to the spiritual qi rain now, its quality was still much lower. Therefore, Yun-yang simply emptied it all. This allowed the spiritual liquid to have the most ample space to be injected. In Yun-yang's mind, today's opportunity was rare. It would be even better if the spiritual rain could take root here and form a spiritual spring below. This torrential rain of spiritual aura lasted for 6 hours. The spiritual qi in the sky was still gathering. Even Dongfang Haoran, who was at the pinnacle of this world, was astounded and did not know what to say, let alone the others. How could the spiritual qi converge last so long? How could it be so long? The question was too profound. Other than Dongfang Haoran and a few other experts, the martial world people who came to attend the ceremony and congratulate were not in the mood to think about such a profound question. All they could do was absorb the spiritual qi of heaven and earth hungrily, cultivate and breathe. Some even took out all the containers they had been slacking off to contain the spiritual liquid that fell from the sky. These were all top-notch items. If they missed this opportunity, they might not have another chance in this lifetime. These spiritual liquids might seem worthless in the residence of 9 Supremes now, but after leaving the residence, they would never have such an opportunity again. In particular, they came to the residence of 9 Supremes during the ceremony, so they would not say anything. How could they still want to enter after today? In their dreams. In such a situation, they would naturally take as many benefits as they could. Many people were cultivating while storing the spiritual liquid, and some were gulping it down like a whale, with tears in their eyes. Why can't I become a disciple of the residence of 9 Supremes? In the crowd, the people of the Qian family, the world's #1 financial magnate, wore extremely complicated expressions. While collecting the benefits and cultivating hard, they looked at the little fatty Qian Duo, who sat cross-legged among the dozen people on the peak of the mountain. This kid is incredible. He had expelled him from the family and taken away the celestial luck banner qualification. Will this fellow bear a grudge? On the high platform, there were auras of breakthroughs rising in the air. In the square, there were also auras of breakthroughs rising one after another. The 4 sovereigns widened their eyes at the same time when the innate purple qi suddenly appeared. Their faces were filled with shock as they stared at the purple figure under the celestial luck banner. They did not even blink, for fear of missing even the slightest detail. Half-step saint. Dongfang Haoran pulled a strand of his beard out, his eyes almost popping out of their sockets. Half-step saint? How is this possible? Shimen Fafu, Beigong Liuli, and Mang Nine's eyes were bigger than bells, and Mang Nine almost revealed his true form in shock. This was absolutely impossible, but it had actually happened right in front of their eyes. Everyone present knew very well what cultivation base Yun-yang had when he had just come out of the demon realm. At that time, he was only a 3rd-grade Supreme Saint. How long had it been until now? Had it only been a year? How had he surpassed the pinnacle of 4th-grade Supreme Saint and reached the level of half-step saint? In the pouring spiritual qi storm, the 4 rulers sighed at the same time. Dongfang Haoran closed his eyes and murmured, "It took me 1,300 years to cross this step back then." Mang Nine and the others rolled their eyes at him. **T, is this fellow sighing or praising himself? 1,300 years, you're the one who took the shortest time among all of us here. What are you looking at? Do you think I don't know that I'm stronger than all of you? I'm talking about this fellow now. From the pinnacle of 4th grade Supreme Saint to where he is now, he didn't spend much time. Dongfang Haoran's blunt words were 100,000 times more explosive to the other 3 rulers. 3 pairs of eyes glared fiercely at Dongfang Haoran. F***CKU. We saw it. We saw it with our own eyes at the same time as you. We understand. We don't need you to say it. Give us a double blow. You bastard. Then, a few more auras of breakthroughs drifted over. That's. Ji Lingxi, one of Yun Yang's fiancées, has broken through to become a Supreme Saint. She was already Pinnacle Supreme Saint, so it's not strange for her to break through today, Dongfang Haoran mumbled to himself, as if explaining and lamenting at the same time. Xiao Wui has broken through to become a Supreme Saint. Xiao Wui is a veteran Pinnacle Supreme Saint expert with sufficient accumulation. It's not strange for him to break through in one day. Shengguan Lingxiu has broken through to become a Supreme Saint. She's also Yun Yang's fiancée, and her cultivation base is similar to Ji Lingxi's. It's not strange for her to break through now. Shi Wuchen has broken through to become a Supreme Saint. He's been with Yun Yang the longest, and his cultivation base is the strongest among the Demiurge Flawed 10. It's not strange for him to break through now. Luo Dujiang has broken through as well. It's not strange. As Dongfang Haoran explained, the more he spoke, the more he felt that his words were incoherent and difficult to convince the crowd. Gradually, he could not even convince himself. All of a sudden, the 4 rulers felt the wind blowing in their faces, to the point where they were doubting life itself. Today's various changes can be said to have completely overturned our understanding. They did not see anything amidst the torrential spiritual qi storm. Yun Yang, who was also sitting on top of the mountain, was slowly injecting the air of vitality and qi of Tao into the bodies of Shi Wuchen and the others. Update is late. I don't want to write this part. It lacks the process. If I write it, I won't be able to write the thrill. The more it's like this, the harder it is to write. If it were a direct battle, it wouldn't be difficult to write 6 to 7 chapters a day, but the problem is that I can't design a battle plot now. I have to wait until the past. Chapter 1404. The current cultivation was undoubtedly a heaven-sent cultivation opportunity. What Yun Yang had done was to maximize his gains this time around, to the extreme. Now that everyone was forced to move forward by the spiritual qi tide, such an opportunity was destined to be difficult to replicate. Given such a good opportunity, Yun Yang naturally wanted to use all means to help the core forces of his sect achieve the maximum breakthrough. Even if the time was not ripe yet, he wanted to help them forcibly break through, even though he knew it was like pulling a seedling up to hasten its growth. Those who received this extra treatment also included Sun Mingxiu, Yun Xiuxin, Hu Xiaofan, and the other top 10 disciples. As Yun Yang's thoughts flickered, wisps of aura entered their bodies under the cover of the torrential rain, improving their aptitude, changing their roots, and breaking through the shackles of their cultivation base. This continued for a full 20 hours. Since the beginning of the merging ceremony, it had lasted for an afternoon, then a dark night, and the next morning. The spiritual qi storm had cleansed the mountains and rivers within 10,000 miles around the residence of 9 Supremes, and all the potholes were filled to the brim with spiritual liquid. However, just as the rain in the sky was about to recede, something strange happened again. Somewhere in the residence of 9 Supremes' territory, a magnificent aura shot into the sky, causing the gathering of heaven and earth spiritual qi to change again. The expressions of Dongfang Haoran and the other 3 changed again. Shimen Fanfu said in surprise, "This is the aura of another high-level Saint Emperor cultivator breaking through. There's another high-level Saint Emperor in the residence of 9 Supremes?" It was Dong Qitian, who had been supporting the residence of 9 Supremes' Great Hall in the sky, who had also broken through. Although Yun Yang did not specifically instill the qi of life and Tao into Dong Qitian, the latter's cultivation base had long reached the pinnacle of third-grade Saint Emperor. Today, with the unprecedented gathering of heaven and earth spiritual chi and the support of the residents of 9 Supreme Celestial Luck Banner, it was not unimaginable for him to break through. With Dong Qitian's unexpected breakthrough, the spiritual rain that was about to dissipate lasted for a while longer. It lasted for almost an hour before the spiritual rain stopped and the sky turned clear again. As the spiritual rain faded, the residents of 9 Supreme Celestial Luck Banner quietly returned to its original position, still fluttering in the air. However, the color of the residents of 9 Supreme Celestial Luck Banner was no longer silver. Instead, it was a faint golden hue amidst the brilliance of clouds. Pale gold. What did this mean? The 4 hall masters of the Eastern Celestial Palace were all letting out long, drawn-out sighs. Their expressions were complicated, and their mouths were filled with bitterness. This was especially true for the Holy Soul Hall, which was ranked last among the 4 halls. They were in a daze. The residence of 9 Supremes was only one more attempt away from becoming a Palace-class Gold-class Celestial Luck Banner. And this time, the 4 great palaces were well aware that this attack was unstoppable. Even Saint Origin Palace, which ranked first among all the palaces, was no match for residents of 9 Supremes, whose strength had improved by leaps and bounds. In other words, one of the 4 great palaces had to be demoted. Other than the weakest Holy Soul Palace, there wouldn't be anyone else that would be demoted. How could this not be bitter? Am I here today to witness the rise of the residents of 9 Supremes, or to witness the fall of the Holy Soul Palace? To most of the other sects that have gained a lot of benefits here, the Holy Soul Palace is really unlucky. After almost a whole day, the people present finally woke up as if they had just woken up from a dream. The ceremony was officially announced to be over. Other than the palace-class experts who were asked to stay by the palace masters, the other sects were given a small gift according to the number of people they had and sent it out of the residence of 9 Supremes. However, the encounter that lasted only for this day had made every one of the hundreds of thousands of martial artists present feel that they had gained a lot. It had even become the most glorious, the most bizarre, and the greatest opportunity of their lives. Even decades or centuries later, the encounter this time would still be widely remembered and passed down by word of mouth. After this day, the residents of 9 Supremes had completely become synonymous with a fairyland. Yes, it was a fairyland, a place that had surpassed the fairyland of the mortal world. This was already the highest level of praise. Have you ever seen a downpour of spiritual liquid from the sky? Have you ever seen mountains and fields filled with tens of thousands of miles of treasures of heaven and earth? Have you ever seen a place where even bedbugs can cultivate? Have you ever seen a place where even rats can fly? Have you ever seen a place where you can break through to the honor realm in 10 years and boast about your extraordinary aptitude and encounters? That's just your shallow knowledge. To make someone break through from the Saint Lord to the Saint Lord in a day, how much more aptitude and encounters can you judge? I've seen all of these and experienced them personally. Let me ask you, are you awesome or not? This day and night is simply a miraculous day and night. Xiao Wui waited until all the participants had left, but he still stood where he was in a daze, motionless. His entire body was trembling with excitement, and the rims of his eyes were red. If he was not in public, his tears would definitely have gushed out. It had only been less than a day. He had truly and thoroughly broken through the shackles that he had not been able to break through for thousands of years, and he had even broken through to the pinnacle of the first-tier Saint Lord. He was only waiting for the next opportunity to break through again. To Xiao Wui, this was something that he dared not even dream of. More than once, he had thought that perhaps he would die at the pinnacle of the fourth-tier Saint Lord for the rest of his life. He did not expect that he would break through during the ceremony at the beginning of the merger of the sects, a massive breakthrough. Lang Fantian and the others were shaking as well, unable to contain their excitement and speechlessness. They too had improved tremendously. Also, Ping Zhenyue and the other original members of the Phoenix Cry sect had improved even more. They were originally a middle-ranked sect, and their overall strength was much inferior to the General Commerce Alliance. Now that they had suddenly experienced an unprecedented spirit chi baptism, many of them could not bear it and had their meridians ruptured. However, they were instantly healed, and they advanced triumphantly. Something like this was truly inconceivable. It was an unimaginably great opportunity. Similarly, the residents of Ninth Supremes, Ling Xiaozue, Du Guchou, and the others were reminiscing. This opportunity had come too beautifully. The feeling of their cultivation base improving by leaps and bounds, really, even if it happened 100 times, it would not be too much. In comparison, the original disciples of the residents of Nine Supremes were slightly calmer. Although there was more commotion this time, they had experienced similar situations many times before. Could they be more composed? At the back mountain of the residence of Nine Supremes, Dong Qitian, who had not appeared all this while and was only sensed by the four rulers, was filled with mixed feelings as well. He could clearly feel his cultivation base, which was unusually unfamiliar to him. It was an indescribably powerful force that made his blood boil with excitement. Was this the fourth-tier pinnacle Saint Lord that he had been yearning for? He had achieved it so easily. From third-tier pinnacle Saint Lord to fourth-tier pinnacle Saint Lord, he had thought that he would need another 10,000 years of accumulation before he had a chance to break through. Unexpectedly, he had broken through in less than a day. Old Dong felt that his decision to join the residence of Nine Supremes was too wise, too decisive, and too correct. As for Yun Yang's mockery and provocation, he could not be bothered at all. It was insignificant. As long as I have this day, even if I have to point at my nose and call me an old bastard, it's worth it. Old Dong thought contentedly. Everyone, go back and rest for 3 days. Familiarize yourself with your current state and stabilize your state of mind. Yun Yang passed down the order. You must adapt to your new strength within 3 days. There were not many people left in this manner. The 3 heavenly palaces, the Holy Land of Tian Fa, the 4 halls, 3 talents, 5 corners Saint Lords, and the various beast kings of the Holy Land of Tian Fa were only a few hundred people. Yun Yang had made all the necessary arrangements. Besides, the 3 great families, as the only families in the bound of universe with gold-class celestial luck banners, were also left behind. Most of the people who stayed felt that there was still a good show to watch. All of them were somewhat excited and expectant, but there was also a small group of people who were frowning. We want to go back. We don't want to stay here. But, you can't leave even if you want to. Because, the main characters later include you. The 3 palace lords of the heavenly palaces were here and did not allow me to leave. How would I dare to leave? Guan Mai, the lord of the Holy Soul Palace, was sullen and depressed, like a resentful wife. These 3 days were also the time for the guests who stayed behind to digest what they had learned. Qian Duo, what's wrong with you? Yun Yang looked at the only fellow who looked so gloomy amidst the elation. We're all on the same side, brothers. Tell me about it. The others were puzzled as well. At this moment when everyone in the residence of Nine Supremes was rejoicing, Qian Duo, the majordomo of the residence of Nine Supremes and the person with the most power, wore a gloomy face as if someone owed him millions of dollars. He looked like he was about to burst into tears and rage. What was the reason for this? Under the watchful eyes of the crowd, Qian Duo wore an ugly smile and heaved a long sigh. It's just that something has stirred up in my heart. What is it? It's such a joyous day. Why are you so dejected? Qian Duo hesitated and said, I think many people have guessed that I'm from the Qian family. Yes, I'm from the Qian family. He chuckled bitterly. The Qian family, the world's #1 financial magnate. The crowd was dumbfounded when they heard him. There were probably only two superpowers in the bound of universe that were famous for their business. One was the General Commerce League, which used martial arts to supplement business. Their business was spread all over the world, focusing on auctions and smuggling goods. They also dealt in stolen goods. Strictly speaking, the General Commerce League was famous for its business, but it was not so pure. It was just that compared to other sects, it did not focus on business. As for the world's top financial magnate, the Qian family, it was the true business family. Its wealth was even greater than the General Commerce League, and it was involved in all kinds of business. However, the Qian family and the General Commerce League's main business was different, so the two families did not have much interaction. The Qian family was truly involved in all kinds of industries. They regarded the entire bound of universe as their own market. They were the undisputed number one financial magnate for tens of thousands of years. Qian Duo was the first to follow Yun Yang among the people in the residence of Nine Supremes. He could even be said to be the other founder of the residence of Nine Supremes. After the residence of Nine Supremes was established, he had worked hard and his position was even higher than Shi Wuchen and the others. To put it bluntly, other than Yun Yang, the residence of Nine Supremes could not do without Qian Duo. Without Qian Duo, the chief logistics officer, the residence of Nine Supremes would immediately fall into chaos. It was even more so today. In the bound of universe, where cultivation base was the most important and combat power was the most important, Qian Duo had obtained the position of being second only to one and above tens of thousands of people in the massive residence of Nine Supremes with a cultivation base that was almost insignificant. It was truly something that could not be done by others. Therefore, the higher-ups of the residence of Nine Supremes, Shi Wuchen and the others, and even Yun Yang himself, had long had doubts and speculations about Qian Duo's background. It was just that Qian Duo was unwilling to talk about his past. Since they were brothers, naturally, no one provoked him. Now that he had revealed his background, everyone was shocked, but it was only a shock. After all, the residence of Nine Supremes today could be said to be a family with a huge business. Even the world's number one financial magnate could hardly restrain it. With a glance, Qian Duo realized that everyone present was a part of the residence of Nine Supremes. He could no longer hold it in. He let out a long sigh and said, "Back then, the Qian family produced a useless genius. He was a genius in business, but his cultivation was useless. If this person was someone else, the Qian family would be happy to see it happen. After all, the Qian family is famous for its business. However, if this useless genius had another identity, the son of the family leader, things would be completely different. I'm sure everyone is familiar with this matter, right?" Shi Wuchen and the others nodded. Not only were they familiar with it, but they were also familiar with it. The fact that the young leader of the Qian family lacked aptitude and could hardly make any progress in his cultivation had indeed caused an uproar in the entire bound of universe. If the future leader of the family could not cultivate, so what if he was a genius in business? Without a certain level of ability, there would be no foundation, and in the end, he would not be able to defend himself. This was the case even in the Qian family, which was famous for its business. The young leader of the family, the useless genius, was my grandfather, my biological grandfather. Qian Duo chuckled bitterly and said, "Grandfather and great-grandfather made the decision very quickly to resign from the position of heir. Unable to cultivate, even if you had the wealth of the world, you would only end up as a puppet, precarious at any time. Any action by someone with ulterior motives could kill you without a burial place. Instead of being vigilant and laboring your entire life, it was better to give it up early in exchange for a peaceful life." Everyone nodded in agreement. It was true that no matter how much of a genius one was in business, in the martial world of the bound of universe, one's ability was always the most important. This was even more so for someone who had no cultivation base at all. Xianduoduo's grandfather's decision to resign from the position as soon as possible could be said to be the wisest decision. However, the first-generation ancestor of the Qian family, Qian Yuntian, had once left behind a sentence before he passed away. It was, "Gather people, gather wealth, gather virtue, gather strength. Hands are not capable of trapping a chicken, but the heart is capable of subduing a dragon. The phoenix can rise to nirvana, and man can triumph over the heavens. After a difficult journey, there is no way forward. When one achieves the Tao, the whole family will ascend to immortality." This prophecy had always puzzled the Qian family, and they did not know what it was referring to. It was not until my grandfather was born that we heard some anecdotes about the wastrel genius. At that time, my Qian family's grand elder, Qian Luosheng, did not know what was going through his mind, but he was certain that my grandfather was like that. Hands are not capable of trapping a chicken, but the heart is capable of subduing a dragon, that he would rise to nirvana in the future, and man will triumph over the heavens. So, he was determined not to allow my grandfather to resign from his position. In the beginning, with Grand Elder Qian Luosheng protecting our family, we lived in harmony. The Qian family has always been known for its business, and we rarely had any external enemies. As long as the family's wealth remained strong, outsiders would not be able to shake us. However, after my great-grandfather went into closed-door cultivation, and my grandfather began to take charge of the family's affairs, internal strife began to grow. It was at that time that Grand Elder Qian Luosheng went berserk in his cultivation and passed away. Our family lost its support. My grandfather initially hoped that my great-grandfather would be able to achieve a breakthrough and stabilize the situation, but unfortunately, what happened was that my great-grandfather did not achieve a breakthrough in his closed-door cultivation. Instead, he overdrafted his life's potential, and his lifespan came to an end early. Following the deaths of Grand Elder and great-grandfather, the entire family looked on coldly from the sidelines, waiting to see if my grandfather would be able to put on a show of the phoenix's nirvana. But in the end, for some reason, my grandfather drank too much one night and died. Everyone was speechless. We were also waiting for your grandfather to be able to trapping a chicken, but the heart is capable of subduing a dragon. We were also waiting to hear about your grandfather's nirvana in the end. In the end, you threw out such a big suspense, but the main character died. Chapter 1405. Everyone was dumbfounded. What the hell is going on? Everyone was waiting for the next turn of events. Why did they all die? And the more they died, the more unexpected it became. It did not conform to the logic of a legend at all. Then, of course, it was the complete decline of our branch. My father and a few of my uncles were considered to have some aptitude and could enter the Tao to cultivate, which would give them more power to protect themselves. But, my father, second uncle, third uncle, and fourth uncle all suffered from qi deviation on the same night and became completely crippled. At that time, I was the only one left in my branch. I was still considered intact. I made a prompt decision to escape from the house, and soon after, I was hunted down. In fact, it was an exaggeration to say that I was hunted down. The real purpose of the hunt was to chase me a little further away from the Qian family's power. They did not really want to kill me, but merely banished me. When I thought about it later, I realized that we all probably belonged to the same celestial luck banner at that time, and killing me at that time would also result in the wrath of heaven. But soon after, I was shocked to find that the Qian family's celestial luck banner had disappeared from my body. They must have removed me from the family. From that day on, I, Qian Duo, became a loner. An indescribable smile appeared on Qian Duo's face. And today, I've finally met the number one family in the world again. In the whole of the bound of universe, there have only been 3 families with gold celestial luck banners since ancient times. The Li family, the Xikong family, and the Qian family. Qian Duo took a deep breath and said with a faint smile, "When I saw them today, I was in a completely different state of mind. I believe that when they saw me, their feelings were probably similar to mine. I believe that few people would have thought that I would be able to turn over a new leaf in this life, or a big one at that, and achieve the ichthyosaur transformation, a transformation that could set off monstrous waves. There was an indescribable sadness and peace in his faint smile. When Shi Wuchen and the others saw that faint smile, they all felt a pang of bitterness in their hearts, as if they had experienced it themselves. What are you going to do next, little fatty? We'll help you. Luo Dujiang was panting heavily when he heard that. His eyes went wide as he said furiously, "Are we going to kill this Qian clan later?" Qian Duo thought for a moment and said bitterly, "It's not that easy. Even if our four sects have merged and become unprecedentedly grand, at the end of the day, what we have is merely a superior class silver celestial luck banner, not a true gold celestial luck banner. The Qian clan is an aristocratic clan with a gold celestial luck banner that has been passed down for countless years. We are rich and powerful, unparalleled in the world. Moreover, the residents of 9 Supremes had just been merged, and there were many things waiting to be done. Everything was difficult. Now, it was time to keep a low profile and recuperate. It was not the right time to cause any more trouble. The Qian clan was really not to be trifled with. I don't even want to consider this matter in the long run. Not to be trifled with? Shi Wuchen, Luo Dujiang, and the others chuckled. Yun Yang's right hand quietly pressed on Qian Duoduo's shoulder. For some reason, the moment Yun Yang's hand pressed on his shoulder, Qian Duo suddenly felt a sense of security, as if he had suddenly found his backbone, someone to rely on, and there was nothing to be afraid of. Little fatty is right. The residents of 9 Supremes does need to upgrade, adjust, and recuperate at the moment. Therefore, an all-out war against the Qian clan cannot happen. Yun Yang's next words made everyone's faces look a little gloomy. However, if we let the Qian clan continue to be so comfortable, the residents of 9 Supremes will be letting down our majordomo, who has worked hard and contributed a lot. When it comes to contributions, he is the biggest contributor to the residents of 9 Supremes. Does anyone have any objections? No. Shi Wuchen and the others reacted immediately. Obviously, they had understood the underlying meaning of Yun Yang's words and the implications behind them. Among them, Shi Wuchen's chest was the highest. Was the raiders of all but heaven's 9-feet-high swallows plucked feathers, the black and white evils, about to come online again? Yun Yang was not the only one in the raiders of all but heaven that day, there was also Shi Wuchen. Yun Yang thought for a moment and said, "Ask Xiaofan, Xiaofan, and the other eldest disciples to come here." What was going on? Not long after, the first 100 first-generation disciples, including Yun Xiaofan, entered the hall respectfully. Now that Shi Wuchen and the others had been promoted to the old guys, they did not care much about the sect's affairs. Most of the sect's affairs were handled by the disciples. This was especially true for the 100 first-generation disciples in front of them. Any one of them had a role to give orders, and there were countless disciples below them who were responsible for the specific matters. I've asked you to come here and tell you a story. It's about your uncle Master Qian, the majordomo of the residents of 9 Supremes. Yun Yang slowly recounted Qian Duoduo's story. Yun Yang's words caused the eyes of the 100 first-generation disciples to blaze with fire. Yun Yang continued slowly, "There is a saying that when a master has something to do, the disciple will do it for him. Now that the residents of 9 Supremes is in the period of development, we can't start an all-out war, and your uncle Master Qian doesn't want to neglect the public for personal reasons. So, you know what you're doing and you're free to think about it. When you go back later, think about how you, as disciples, should help your uncle Master Qian vent his anger. Remember, this anger must be vented in a comfortable and satisfying way. Also, the matter can't be blown out of proportion. How to continue, how to develop, how to act, how to end it. Yunyang smiled meaningfully and said, "In short, there's a way. Do you all understand what I'm saying?" Luo Dezhang frowned slightly. "Boss, what are you talking about? You didn't say anything, so how can the disciples understand? What do they need to understand?" However, what he didn't expect was that the 100 exceptional disciples all shouted in unison, their spirits roused, "Disciples understand, we guarantee to complete the mission." What task? When did the masters of the residence of 9 supremes assign any task? Leave now. Yunyang waved his hand. Yes. Without another word, the disciples bowed and left. Not a single one of them had any questions. Luo Dezhang, on the other hand, was even more puzzled, feeling more and more like he was in a fog. "Lingxi, you don't have anything to do anyway. Why don't you focus on watching these disciples these few days? Don't let them cause any trouble." Yunyang thought about it and decided to assign a bodyguard to these young fellows to ensure their safety. After all, these people from the Qian family were at least at the pinnacle of the supreme saint level, and there were 2 saint lords among them. It was understandable to look down on their opponents in terms of strategy, but it would be suicidal to look down on their opponents in terms of skills and tactics. If the disciples were allowed to mess around, they might be the ones suffering instead. The phrase, "don't let them cause trouble," should be removed from the word "cause trouble" for it to be understood more smoothly. Ji Lingxi had always been a person who was not afraid of trouble. She was all smiles and said confidently, "No problem." Then, she left. Qian Duoduo's lips quivered, his eyes rimmed with tears. "Take it slow. Today is only the first step." Yunyang patted him on the shoulder and said, "Cutting flesh with a blunt knife is the most painful, especially in the business world. You will see that the Qian family, which rarely has any external problems, is now full of external problems." Qian Duoduo's voice turned choked as he murmured, "Boss, aren't you afraid that I'm lying? That I've wronged a good person? Is it decided?" Yunyang smiled faintly. "Good person? The residence of 9 supremes is a good person. How can the opposite be a good person?" Yunyang had never claimed to be a good person. Even when he was reasonable, he was only reasonable to outsiders. Justice was only in his own hands, and he would not care about what was right or wrong. After saying this, Yunyang did not linger on this matter but changed the topic immediately. What Yunyang had arranged was a plan that would take several years. In other words, from now on, as long as the residence of 9 supremes still existed, as long as the Qian family was not destroyed, the disciples could do whatever they wanted. However, Yun Xiaoxin did not want to wait that long. These young fellows had a plan almost as soon as they stepped out of the hall. And they had already begun to act. All the hall factions had their own individual courtyards that were surrounded by exotic flowers and grasses. Needless to say, the scenery was unique. Just the area occupied by the courtyards alone was rather large. It was more than a dozen hectares, and there were over 100 houses, pavilions, and halls. It could be said to be an extremely imposing sight. The 4 sacred palaces were in a row, the 3 talents palace was next to each other, the 5 sacred masters were next to each other, and the Qian clan, Li clan, and Sikong clan were next to each other. In the past few days, no one had moved. It was obvious that they were digesting what they had gained from this cultivation. The current situation could not be clearer. The 3 heavenly palaces must be discussing something, and it was most likely the residence of 9 supremes ranking battle. The 3 palace masters didn't say anything to let them leave, so no one dared to leave. The spiritual qi in the residence of 9 supremes was unusually abundant. It could be said to be a cultivation sanctuary of the highest level, not to mention that the food was good and the hospitality was excellent. Meals made of spiritual herbs and spiritual ingredients would be served every morning, noon, and night. Not only did they look, smell, and taste delicious, they were also of great help to one's cultivation. Even the high-level cultivators, who had been fasting for a long time, were willing to make an exception and eat to their heart's content. It could even be said that, except for the Holy Soul Palace, the others were enjoying themselves to the fullest. However, on this day, there was a sudden, subtle change in the situation. After a few disciples of the residents of Nine Supremes delivered the customary breakfast, the Qian clan, the world's #1 financial tycoon, was surprised to find that something doesn't seem right. Why is the spiritual qi around our courtyard getting thinner? A moment later, is the spiritual qi gone? Someone from the Qian clan came out to check, only to see that the spiritual qi was still lingering in the distance, like a fairyland on earth. However, the place where they stood, hundreds of feet in circumference, seemed to be a forbidden area isolated from spiritual qi. What's going on? Just as he was wondering about it, he saw a few residents of Nine Supremes' disciples carrying food boxes over slowly. The rich aroma of the food wafted over, and the spiritual qi within it was even stronger. Before he had even taken the food, he was already drooling. This is still not right. Didn't they use spatial rings to deliver the food before? Why are they using the food boxes today? The Qian clan watched as the two disciples flew over with the food boxes and passed by them, heading to the Li clan and the Xikong clan without stopping at the Qian clan's area. Are they only delivering food to the other two clans and not giving us a share? The Qian clan felt that something was wrong. A Qian clan elder stopped a disciple of the residents of Nine Supremes and asked, "What about our clan?" The disciple looked as humble as ever as he answered respectfully, "I don't know." "Shouldn't they be delivered together?" "I don't know." "What's going on?" "I don't know." The disciple answered all the Qian clan elders' questions with a, "I don't know." The Qian clan's frustration grew stronger and stronger. After waiting for another hour, when the other two clans had finished their meals and were cultivating, there was still no movement here. The sudden disappearance of spiritual qi must be the residents of Nine Supremes doing, but now, there's no food as well. Isn't this too much of a bully? Isn't this too much? No matter what, we're guests who came to congratulate. Don't the residents of Nine Supremes have any shame? There's nothing to fear but injustice. Go and ask. The Qian clan leader's eyes were filled with an insuppressible cold light. The residents of Nine Supremes has gone too far. The Qian clan is a big clan with a big business. When have we ever cared about a meal or a little help in cultivation? Even if it's 10 times better cultivation resources, it doesn't matter. What we care about is our dignity. They don't serve us meals, but they still want to walk around in front of us with the food boxes. This is a clear provocation, a blatant provocation. This could not be tolerated. Uncle could tolerate it, Aunt could not tolerate it. Not far away, the people from the Xikong clan and the Li clan were puzzled when they saw the Qian clan standing at the gate. Some of them who were acquainted with the Qian clan came over to have a chat. When they learned about the specific situation here, they all wore strange expressions. Is there a need to say it clearly? The Qian clan is being targeted. We don't have such treatment. I didn't think much of it before, but now that I'm dealing with it myself, it's just a distance of dozens of steps, but the supply of spiritual qi on both sides can no longer be described as heaven and earth. It's an essential difference. It's already a loss to come here to talk. Let's go back quickly. One of the Qian clan members was extremely upset by this encounter. Seeing that there were no disciples of the residents of Nine Supremes around, he walked toward the Li clan in annoyance, planning to find someone to talk to and analyze the situation. However, just as he took a dozen steps and was about to reach the Li clan's area, a figure suddenly flashed in front of him. A disciple of the residents of Nine Supremes suddenly appeared in front of him. His manner was humble and his words were appropriate. "The sex-restricted area, please stop, honorable guest." The Qian clan member was stunned by the dissuasion. Why did nothing happen when the Li clan members walked to our side just now? The distance is the same, but I'm already in the sex-restricted area? Isn't the differential treatment too obvious? This was too unscrupulous, brazen, and insane, wasn't it? The Qian clan expert's face was as dark as the bottom of a pot. Chapter 1406. What if I insist? The Qian family elder was so furious that his lungs were about to explode. He did not ask why others could come, but he could not because the reason was already clear. It was just that the Qian family was being treated differently. The disciple's attitude was still respectful, but his words were unyielding. A touch of coldness appeared on his young face. Honorable guest, please be careful with your words. This is the residence of 9 Supremes, and it has its own rules. If you insist on trampling on the rules, as a disciple of the residence of 9 Supremes, I can only defend the dignity of the residence with my life. His words had already reached the crux of the matter, directly pointing out the crux of the matter. How dare you? The Qian family expert could not hold back his anger. We are guests here. Isn't it our fault that the residence of 9 Supremes is treating us differently? Is this how the residence of 9 Supremes treats its guests? The residence of 9 Supremes' disciple's expression remained unchanged as he said, "How dare I neglect a guest who has come to the residence of 9 Supremes? However, a guest should also perform his duty as a guest. How is it befitting of a guest to turn the tables and barge into an important place?" The Qian family expert was fuming with anger. He strode forward and said, "Get out of the way." Clang! The residence of 9 Supremes' disciple unsheathed his sword and roared like a dragon, "Stop!" Before his voice died away, a voice rang out in the distance, "What's the matter? There is a guest here who keeps dissuading us and wants to force his way into the residence of 9 Supremes. How dare you?" The voice suddenly turned stern. Then, 2 figures flew over quickly. They were a man and a woman. The woman was residence of 9 Supremes' first-generation disciple, senior sister Yun Xiaofan, and the man was third senior brother Xiaofan. Now that the 2 most lawless disciples of the residence of 9 Supremes had come together, the drama was destined to be difficult to end. What are you doing? The Qian family was also furious, and they had a reason to be angry. What does the residence of 9 Supremes want to do? Don't tell me you want to restrict our freedom with just a few of your disciples. This is too much. As soon as the Qian family experts took a step forward, Xiaofan had already turned around and said, "Don't mind, mistress. It's just a small matter. Let the disciples handle it." Mistress? When Xiaofan arrived and saw that they were about to make a move, he immediately cowered. These people from the Qian clan were high-level saint venerables, and there were even saint monarchs. If they were to make a move, he would definitely be at a disadvantage. The first thing he did was to call for help. As he spoke, Ji Lingxi, who had just joined the residence of 9 Supremes, came out with a veil covering her face. Judging from the mistress's aura, she was obviously not someone to be trifled with. When the Qian family leader was about to bow and explain the cause of the conflict, Ji Lingxi spoke first. "The Qian family is one of the few great aristocratic families in this world. How can you be so rude? The residence of 9 Supremes has always treated us with courtesy and sincerity. How can the Qian clan bully my disciple? Who is the clan leader? Why doesn't he step forward and do something about it?" She looked dissatisfied. Isn't this bullying? The patriarch of the Qian clan, Qian Shengjin, who had forced a smile on his face, was so angry that he almost burst his stomach in an instant. What kind of words were those? Who was the one bullying who? Do you know the whole story or not? Couldn't they be more reasonable? Where was justice, right and wrong? Where was the human heart? How could he not lower his head when he was under someone else's roof? Intimidated by Yun Yang's ferocious reputation, Qian Shengjin suppressed his anger and explained with cupped hands, Madam Ji, this is what happened. Ji Lingxi listened with a frown and grew even more displeased. Leader Qian, I have to say something about this. The disciples of the residents of 9 Supremes are all young and still children. It's understandable that they made some mistakes. Who hasn't been a brat before? But you're an adult. Even if the children did something wrong out of carelessness, are you going to be calculative with them? How can you be so shameless to be calculative with a few brats? And to think that you're the patriarch of a family. He was still a child, to be calculative with a few brats? Qian Shengjin was so enraged by these words that he wished he was dead. Madam Yun, you can't say that, Patriarch Qian, could it be that you really want to make things difficult for my children? Are you really going to be serious? Ji Lingxi frowned. Alright, if you're not afraid of being implicated, I'll punish them severely later. It's their fault for offending you. Qian Shengjin swallowed hard. Madam Yun, the crux of this matter isn't that I'm being calculative with them, but that the Qian family is being treated differently. The Qian family doesn't want anything else but our reputation, Ji Lingxi said. Reputation? I didn't say that. I'm not giving you face. Didn't I promise to punish them later? Isn't this giving the Qian family enough face? Or do you have other plans and insist on being calculative with a few children? Children, can you stop talking about children? Qian Shengjin finally could not hold it in any longer and said loudly, we're all people of the martial world. Isn't the right and wrong obvious? How can we resolve this dispute? Ji Lingxi was enraged as well, even more so than Qian Shengjin. She said in a low voice, Leader Qian, what do you mean by this? I've already compromised and admitted that a few of my disciples have handled things inappropriately. Why are you still so insistent and so loud? Look at you, not only do you want to be calculative with my disciples, but you also want to teach me a lesson. Qian Shengjin's eyes widened, feeling a breath stuck in his throat that he could neither swallow nor spit out. The anger in Ji Lingxi's eyes grew as she said, Leader Qian, I'm here to quell the disturbance, not to listen to your lesson. Even if the Qian family is one of the top 3 clans in the world and is so powerful that no one dares to provoke you, and even if the residents of 9 Supremes is only a small sect that was founded not long ago and is powerless to fight against you, even if justice isn't in the hearts of the people, even if right and wrong are claimed by others, the residents of 9 Supremes will never give in. This is preposterous. This is preposterous. Preposterous. Preposterous? It's not the residents of 9 Supremes' place to say this, is it? Also, what do you mean by listening to my lesson? When did I teach you a lesson? Qian Shengjin took a deep breath, his gaze cold. Madam, you're speaking so confidently. It looks like the residents of 9 Supremes is determined to make things difficult for the Qian family? Ji Lingxi laughed in anger. Leader Qian, the Qian family is famous for being a merchant, and it turns out that you're someone with a sharp tongue. Now, you're saying the opposite of what you're saying? Is the cause of this dispute between you and a few juniors? It's hard for me, an outsider, to comment on your lack of grace and magnanimity, but I've come to mediate with good intentions, haven't I? Now, you're shifting all the blame to me. You're really something. I've only said a few words, but clan leader Qian is getting more and more serious, pointing out that the entire residence of 9 Supremes is against you. What do you mean? Is there anything about the residence of 9 Supremes that you don't like? Although the residence of 9 Supremes is a newly established sect, we're not afraid of any force in this world's provocations. Just do it. By then, Zhan Wufei and the rest of the 4 palaces, 3 talents, 5 sacred lords, Li family, and Xikong family had heard the commotion and rushed over. However, they were a little late, so they could only hear the latter half of the argument, shaking their heads. This Qian family is too ungentlemanly. They're merchants after all, Zhang Wufei asked as soon as he landed. What's going on? What's going on? Can both of you give me some face and speak less? Let me sort things out for you, all right? He was all smiles as he said, today is a joyous day for the residents of Nine Supremes. Let's not cause any unhappiness and bring bad luck to ourselves. Qian Xingjin swallowed a few times, his gaze sharp as a knife as he said, this is what happened. Ji Lingxi listened and looked at the disciple beside her. Why is there no spiritual qi on leader Qian's side? The disciple had a look of, I'm innocent, on his face. Master's wife, where did this come from? The spiritual qi is clearly. Qian Xingjin was taken aback. Everyone else felt the same as well. The spiritual qi here is no different from other places. Where is it gone? There was no difference in the spiritual qi where everyone was. If it was Qian Xingjin's place, everyone would have noticed the difference as soon as they rushed over. Since there was no difference, of course, the atmosphere was the same. Sensing the change, the Qian family grew even more enraged, feeling like their lungs were about to explode. They were so preoccupied with their anger that they did not realize that the spiritual qi had recovered. Zhang Wufei frowned as he looked at Qian Xingjin. Leader Qian, why did you? He sighed and shook his head. His actions were clearly saying that Qian Xingjin was the one who had caused trouble. This was not right. Qian Xingjin almost spat out a mouthful of blood. Suppressing it with great effort, he asked, what about the food? Xiaofan stepped forward and bowed respectfully as he said carefully, Mistress, this is what happened, there is no difference in the food we send, it's all the same. It's probably because the Qian family is rich that they give a lot of rewards to their disciples each time, so the food is sent to the Qian family first, followed by the Li family and the Xikong family. We didn't expect leader Qian and the rest to have a better appetite today, so the food wasn't enough. That's why there are so many changes, Ji Lingxi frowned. Delivered? Yes, of course. Really? Yes, we did. Xiaofan took out a lunchbox, there was only an empty plate left inside. It was obvious that he had eaten everything cleanly. Xiaofan said indignantly, please look, mistress. Even a dog can't eat it so cleanly. Qian Xingjin was dizzy as he hollered, brat. You've gone too far. Before his words echoed in the air, he was already about to charge forward. Ji Lingxi stood in front of Xiaofan and shouted angrily, what? You were so unforgiving and overbearing just now. Was it because you didn't have enough food? If you didn't have enough food, you could have just said it. Why did you have to beat around the bush and escalate the matter to such an extent? Now, you even want to bully the weak in front of so many people and deal with a child. To have such magnanimity in conduct, so what if your Qian clan is rich? Can you do whatever you want just because you're rich? If you want to make things difficult for my disciple, you'll have to go through me first. No matter how weak the residents of Nine Supremes is, we'll definitely support our disciple and fight the Qian family to the end. Seeing that the situation was getting more and more extreme, Zhang Wufei could not help but interject, everyone, calm down. This is a joyous day. Qian Xingjin's eyes were spitting fire as he glared at Ji Lingxi and said, Madam Yun, you're twisting the truth like this. Are you sure you want to humiliate the Qian family? Ji Lingxi's gaze was cold. I think it's the Qian family who's up to no good on the residents of Nine Supremes' joyous day. Qian Xingjin's breathing sounded like bellows. Feeling the unfriendly gazes from all around, it was obvious that everyone present felt that they were in the wrong. Now that the situation had changed, in the eyes of others, they were the ones who were arrogant and domineering, bullying the Qian family's junior disciple and being unreasonable, oppressing them with their power and causing trouble on the Qian family's joyous day. They were truly unreasonable and unreasonable. Perhaps only the Li family knew that they were the ones who were being bullied. Yun Xiaoxin murmured pitifully, Mistress. I feel wronged. When the Qian family came to the residence of 9 Supremes, we welcomed them as distinguished guests and arranged for them to stay in such an excellent place where even the disciples don't have the chance to cultivate. We were treated with good food and drinks, but even though we're young and we've been neglectful, you could have just told us. It's just a little food, and I'll bring it over. But, how did things turn out like this? I really don't know why. Yun Xiaofan was a lovely girl, like a pearl. Now, the little girl was about to burst into tears with a wronged look on her face. The few palace masters felt sorry for her and wished they could pat her head to comfort her. They were even more dissatisfied with the Qian family. Could it be that the Qian family had taken a fancy to the residence of 9 Supremes' disciples' beauty? Ji Lingxi took a deep breath and said, "Don't worry, Xiaofan. Mistress will stand up for you in this matter. No one will wrong you." She turned to look at Zhang Wufei and said, "Hall Master Zhang, I'm sure all of you have seen this matter clearly. We are all guests, and I really don't know what to do. I've also lost control of this matter, understand?" "Understand? What do we understand?" The rest of the 3 halls, 3 talents and 5 directions were still confused. This matter seemed to be clear to them, but the Qian family conducted themselves in the ways of merchants. They were most particular about harmony bringing wealth. How could they be so ignorant? They were such a large family, and the family leader was here in person. It was impossible for them to be so inconsiderate and allow the situation to escalate to such an extreme. Unexpectedly, Zhang Wufei had already said readily, "Don't worry, Madam Yun. I've seen everything from the beginning to the end. The Qian family has indeed gone overboard. However, I hope that Madam Yun can be magnanimous and not be too calculative. After all, it's your residence's big day. It won't be good for anyone to make a fuss. I'll make the decision and ask clan leader Qian to apologize to you. Do you think we'll let this matter go? If it goes on, all the palace masters are still here, it'll be bad if something happens. What do you say, clan leader Qian?" Others aside, Zhang Wufei would definitely stand on the residence of 9 Supreme side. Among all of them, he was the only one who understood Yun Yang's terror the best, not to mention that he was still carrying a huge debt. His mission today was to be a good supporting character. He had to do it well. Once Zhang Wufei spoke, the other hall masters nodded in agreement. "Hall Master Zhang Wufei is right, Hall Master Zhang. He's reasonable. It's just a small matter, clan leader Qian can just apologize and let it go. Let's drink tea and play chess later." The other hall masters and divine lords were persuading him kindly. To them, the matter was indeed not a big deal. Was it not something that could be resolved with just a word? Besides, if Zhang Wufei had seen it, it meant that they had seen it as well. Was there a need for verification? It was not something that could threaten their lives. It was better to just let it go. How could they not give Zhang Wufei face? Ji Lingxi's expression turned indifferent. "Since Hall Master Zhang has spoken, I have no other opinions. It's up to clan leader Qian now." Qian Xingjin looked at Zhang Wufei with grief and indignation. What did he mean by, "I've seen everything from the beginning to the end"? May I ask, where did you see it from the beginning to the end? Where did this come from? Our Qian family has obviously been bullied by the residents of 9 Supremes from the beginning to the end, but we still have to apologize to them? Zhang Wufei laughed heartily and told Qian Xingjin, "Clan leader Qian, it's just a small matter. Isn't it just an apology? Just bend over, nod, and bow. Isn't it just an apology? It's easy for you to say." Qian Xingjin's face was flushed. All the hall masters and holy lords were looking at him amiably. Clearly, they were waiting for him to apologize to them and resolve this unforeseen event. But I really have to apologize, don't I? How can I open my mouth? If I really make a loss, Qian Xingjin stood there stiffly, not speaking nor moving. The grievance in his heart had reached its peak. He did not even dare to speak, afraid that he would spit blood the moment he opened his mouth. There was still no movement for a long time. This stalemate seemed to have put Zhang Wufei in an awkward position. The smile on Zhang Wufei's face gradually froze, his gaze turning cold. Even the other hall masters and divine lords had a strange expression on their faces. What was wrong with clan leader Qian? Was he not giving them face? The Sacred Heart Palace Lord was here to smooth things over, and a group of hall masters and divine lords were helping to smooth things over, and he was not even willing to give them this little bit of face? Did he want to fly away or fly into the sky? Did he not want to live in this bound of universe anymore? Zhang Wufei's face was stiff as he forced a smile and said darkly, "Clan leader Qian, are you really not going to give us this face? Even if my face isn't enough, but the faces of so many old brothers are here. Could it be that this isn't enough?" Qian Xingjin remained standing stiffly, his face turning increasingly pale, but he still did not speak or move. Zhang Wufei's expression darkened, his facial muscles twitching as a murderous glint flashed in his eyes. You really dare not give us face? *CK me, so awesome. Even the gazes of the other temple masters and sacred lords started to turn ugly. Just as Zhang Wufei had said, it was no longer just a matter between the residents of 9 Supremes and the Qian family. There were so many of us, so many super forces here to smooth things over for you. Everyone was talking to you with a smile. Was this not enough face? Chapter 1407. In just a short moment, the atmosphere became unprecedentedly stuffy, with a hint of gunpowder brewing. Qian Xingjin knew very well that he had fallen into a trap today. He had lost control of his emotions, but it was impossible for him to suppress his rising anger. For a moment, he couldn't even speak, and could only take a deep breath. One of the elders of the Qian clan saw that the situation wasn't good, and he hurriedly stood out and smiled apologetically. Hall Master Zhan, today's matter is really a small matter. It's indeed our fault, shut up. Zhang Wufei, Saint Origin Palace Master, and Dongfang Sacred Lord bellowed together. Do you have the right to speak? The faces of all the hall masters and sacred lords turned livid. Today was really a big loss of face. Qian clan, you're really awesome. Even with so many of us combined, it's still not enough. What do you want? Although wealth could make one a god, and wealth could rival a country, this saying did not apply to the people who stood at the pinnacle of the bound of universe. Zhang Wufei stared at the elder of the Qian clan, his eyes cold as he said word by word, "This has nothing to do with you. Today, I just want to ask clan leader Qian, is my face enough? Are you giving it to me or not?" Yu Wubian, Lord of Saint Origin Palace sneered. What's the point of asking? If it's not enough, what is our face worth? They have already made it clear that they don't want to give it to us, and you still want to ask? Lu Changfeng, Lord of Saint Origin Palace, said with a sullen face, we are indeed asking to be humiliated. We are too self-righteous. The weight of these two sentences had already reached the extreme. The faces of the others were equally sullen, as if they were about to kill someone. The 5 elders of the Qian clan looked at their clan master anxiously, their hearts thumping wildly. Clan master. We know you are wronged. Who doesn't feel wronged? But now, look at the situation, we really can't hold on any longer, it is our Qian clan's fault. Thank you, Madam Yun, for being magnanimous and forgiving. And the few young brothers of the residents of 9 Supremes, please don't take it to heart. Don't let your Tao heart be clouded. Qian Xingjin finally spoke. He finally suppressed his exploding anger and took a deep breath. His expression turned sincere and ashamed as he said, I'm sorry, Hall Master Zhan, Hall Master Yu. Just now, it was the devil in my heart that caused me to hold it in. The root of this matter is that I thought too highly of myself and thought that I was infallible. I hereby apologize to all of you, hall masters." As he spoke, he sincerely bowed to the ground and did not get up for a long time. He held his breath. This answer, as well as this deep bow that practically threw away his dignity, immediately caused many people's expressions to soften. That made sense, albeit barely. Everyone knew that no matter how much self-restraint one had, once one's anger was completely ignited, they would never be able to calm down. But Zhang Wufei snorted, his expression still ugly. "Qian family head's cultivation level is really high. My inner demon has been born, and I'm holding it in, he. With a cold sneer, he flicked his sleeves and left without another word. Yu Wubian and Lu Changfeng's faces were dark as well, turning to leave without a word. As for the other holy lords and hall masters, even though their expressions were slightly better, Zhang Wufei's words still made them extremely displeased. "With Qian Shengjin's cultivation base, you're holding it in? Inner demon has been born? Who are you trying to fool?" A few of them even forced a smile and excused themselves to smooth over the situation. Most of the others merely grimaced stiffly and turned to leave without another word. From afar, Ji Lingxi's voice could still be heard lecturing her disciples. "Those who come are guests, and the guests should be respected. Don't think that the residence of 9 Supremes has ascended to the heavens in a single bound. The world is vast. If you dare to be the slightest bit negligent, I'll punish you myself." A few disciples replied respectfully, "Yes, we won't dare to do it again." Then, Ji Lingxi's voice could be heard again. "Clan head Qian. I'm sorry, my attitude just now was also problematic. I hereby apologize to you, please don't take it to heart." With that, Ji Lingxi left with her disciples. The few hall masters and holy lords who were still paying attention to the situation immediately understood what was right and wrong. Look at Madame Yun, how considerate she was. When he compared the Qian clan and the Qian clan, he felt that the Qian clan was truly too excessive. "You're just a shameless thing." The few hall masters came to the same conclusion in their hearts. During the battle earlier, he had already taken the initiative to use his own face to talk, but this patriarch of the Qian clan was actually still able to stand firm and not move. "Do you think that a single bow from you can match the face of a hall master?" Moreover, there was more than one hall master who had spoken just now. Watching Ji Lingxi leave, Qian Shengjin turned around numbly and walked in. He had only taken 2 steps when he suddenly spat out a mouthful of blood. His face turned as white as wax, and he fell to the ground like a collapsing mountain. In the eyes of those who were present today, the beginning and the end of this matter was but a very, very small matter. The Qian family head of the Qian family, Qian Shengjin, refused to admit his mistake and humiliated a few hall masters in front of everyone. This was a big deal, a classic example of losing a big deal for a small one. In spite of this, the Qian family, one of the top 3 aristocratic families in the world, was almost suffocated to death. Not only did Qian Shengjin, the Qian family head, vomit blood, but even the 5 great elders felt a strong desire to go berserk. They wanted to howl into the sky, to kill, and even to commit suicide. This was too much of a bully. We are the top financial family in the world. Since when have we been bullied like this? As Qian Shengjin spat out a mouthful of blood, he quickly regained his senses, but he was already suffering from internal injuries. He sucked in a deep breath and sat on the chair, panting with a weary expression. His gaze was vicious, and after a long time, he said, "The residents of 9 Supremes would never make the Qian family an enemy for no reason. There must be a reason for this. Could it be because of Qian Duoduo?" As soon as Qian Shengjin said that, the other elders shuddered, their expressions blank. Qian Duoduo? It was a name that had a very weak presence, and to them, it was a very long time ago. Well, it did not seem to be a very long time ago. About 100 years ago, the family produced a legitimate son of the head of the family who was good at business but had no talent in cultivation. Because of a prophecy that had been passed down for many years, the patriarch of the family at that time stubbornly made the good-for-nothing successor as the head of the family, and even did not hesitate to suppress the talented disciples in the family for this. Later, although the family set things right and expelled all the good-for-nothing lineal descendants without much damage, they had, after all, gotten rid of the former head of the family's lineal descendants. Therefore, everyone had a good impression of it. Of course, no one took it too seriously, thinking that it was a moment of confusion on the part of the patriarch. The main reason was that all the descendants of that branch were mediocre cultivators, and there was no room for them to be taken seriously. As for Qian Duoduo, who had slipped through the net, everyone had an impression of him. He seemed to be a good-for-nothing who had cultivated for nearly 20 years but was only a honor. Not to mention mediocre, even if he was the best of the best, he could still stir up some trouble after being stripped of the celestial luck banner and removed from the Qian family. The influence of the Qian family's upper echelons on Qian Duoduo and even his parents and ancestors was probably like a person who accidentally stepped on an ant's nest while walking and killed most of the ants, but there were still a few lucky enough to escape. However, would a person need to worry about the ants' revenge? It was simply ridiculous. Now, however, everyone was surprised to see the return of that ant. Moreover, the humiliation that his clan had suffered today was very likely because of that ant. That was another matter altogether. When we go back, we'll completely slaughter that branch. Qian Shengjin rubbed his brows tiredly and said, "Let them carry out the task, and then let the bandits destroy them." He breathed a sigh of relief, an indescribable viciousness in his eyes. "Otherwise, our thoughts will not be smooth." One of the elders hesitated for a moment and said, "It may not necessarily be because of Qian Duoduo." Qian Shengjin said faintly, "There can't be any other reason. Our Qian family is not a small family, no matter what. The residence of 9 Supremes reuniting ceremony is an important moment. If there is no major reason, they will never offend the main family like this. Only Qian Duoduo, as the majordomo of the residence of 9 Supremes, has a high position and great power, and has a great grudge against the Qian family. Pass down the order. Get rid of the group of good-for-nothings as soon as possible, then arrange for people to kill Qian Duoduo. Although the residence of 9 Supremes is powerful, it has just been established, after all, and its foundation is limited. As long as the family closes its doors as soon as possible and stays out of the world for a period of time, this grudge will naturally fade away. During this period of time, we must try our best to build a good relationship with the divine lords of the various palaces. Qian Shengjin said faintly, "No matter what, we are the gold celestial luck banners. No one will want to fight us to the death. Even the residents of 9 Supremes will, at most, use such means to annoy us. It's not to the extent of fighting us to the death." He smiled faintly and said, "Although it's disgusting today, it's also a reminder. Don't take it to heart. The key person is only Qian Duoduo. As long as this nail is removed, we can take the initiative to repair our relationship with the residents of 9 Supremes and let them have more profits. In this world, there is nothing that can't be compensated by profit. Although the residents of 9 Supremes can have a conflict with us for Qian Duoduo now, in the future, they will never pester us to the end because of a dead man. There are no eternal friends in this world, only eternal interests. Perhaps, the residents of 9 Supremes can even become our best ally in the future. It all depends on what we do. Today's unforeseen event happened because it happened right in front of us. I wasn't prepared at all, and even I lost my composure. But being sullen like this might not be a bad thing. Let's recognize the present and understand the present." Qian Shengjin exhaled with a smile and said, "Today, we've fallen into a trap. Now that I think about it, it's because I'm not mellow enough. I couldn't swallow my anger at that time, and now I've become the butt of gossip. I really shouldn't have. As he spoke, his thoughts became clearer and clearer. Clan leader is really magnanimous, and your vision is like a torch. I'm impressed. Admiration and praise appeared on the faces of the 5 elders at the same time. This was the magnanimity of the head of a clan. As they spoke, the spiritual chi outside disappeared again. Obviously, the residents of 9 Supremes had made a move again. But now, in the eyes of the Qian family, this move seemed childish and childish. They were completely indifferent and did not take it seriously anymore. We won't lose our temper, and we won't leave. If we leave in a fit of anger today, we'll really be the butt of gossip and fall into the pit. There was still no food. Not only was there no food at night, but there was also no food in the morning. However, the Qian family had already recovered their composure and remained calm. No one even came out to walk around. There was nothing to walk around, and if they really walked out rashly, they might be accused of trespassing into the sex-forbidden area. The Qian family would never fall for the same trick a second time. Perhaps to the other martial arts sects, your tricks are an irreconcilable grudge, but to us, who are famous for being merchants, it's really not worth mentioning. Because to us, nothing is more important than profit. What's the big deal about face? How much money is it worth? As long as the situation was clear, the so-called humiliation was just a passing cloud, and they could just take it indifferently. This Qian family is really tolerant. Yun Xiaofan was a little dejected. We've painstakingly planned so many plans, but we've only succeeded once. Sun Mingxiu, who was sitting aside, said with a faint smile, "We're already lucky to have succeeded once. Based on my understanding of the Qian family, even the first time shouldn't have succeeded. It's just that mistress didn't let her guard down and force them to the edge of the cliff. Coupled with the unexpected cooperation of Temple Master Zhan, we managed to trick the Qian family once. Your tricks are just to make people laugh, it's nothing much." It was the appearance of mistress that directly provoked the other party's anger, and it was Temple Master Zhan's inverted words that really made Qian Shengjin explode in anger. Then, the sudden reconciliation and the sudden turn of the situation made him unable to calm down, and he froze there. Even if the speed of one sentence was too slow, it wouldn't have succeeded. Do you think it's as easy as you see? Even if it's a trap, it won't be so easy to set up an old aristocratic family that has been passed down for thousands of years like this. Moreover, our little trick is not even worth mentioning. For now, it's hard for us to make any progress in the remaining days of the residence of 9 Supremes. We'll have to wait until they leave before we talk about the rest. Yu Chengheng, Bai Yesheng, and the others nodded silently. Senior Brother Sun's analysis was spot on. Next, our first priority is still to cultivate and gain experience, said Sun Mingxiu. It's not impossible for us to bring down the Qian clan and avenge Uncle Master Qian on our own, but it's an extremely difficult task, said Sun Mingxiu. The Qian clan is the world's #1 plutocracy. As the saying goes, money can control ghosts, but it can also communicate with the gods. In this world, money is the strongest and most successful weapon. Let me say this solemnly, don't underestimate the other party just because they're a plutocracy. Once we really start to act, we don't know how many strong opponents we'll have to face inexplicably for the sake of money. I won't be surprised at all if we fail one by one and fall into someone's trap. Sun Mingxiu looked at Hu Xiaofan and Lu Changman. Especially the two of you. One is lawless, and the other is reckless. Both of you are the easiest to fall into someone's trap. If you're not strong enough and you're ambushed by an expert, there's only death waiting for you. Hu Xiaofan snorted indignantly, while Lu Changman twisted his neck to show that he was not convinced. Keep cultivating. Try to improve your strength as much as possible so that you can have more life-saving capital. Sun Mingxiu said a few words, and when he saw that there was nothing more to say, Yun Xiaofan, the eldest senior sister, announced that the meeting was adjourned. One had to say that although Yun Xiaofan was the eldest senior sister, she was an extremely lazy girl. Apart from cultivating, she did not care about anything related to the sect. Therefore, whenever the senior and junior brothers held a meeting, Yun Xiaofan was the organizer and the person who gave the notice. As for speaking, giving instructions, dealing with things, resolving disputes, arranging work, and so on, they were all done by Sun Mingxiu, Yu Chengheng, and other experienced and prudent people. She was the eldest senior sister, who held a high position in all the sects and clans, but Yun Xiaofan treated her as a mascot equivalent to an office director. This little girl was clearly a mere figurehead and had no real power, but she still enjoyed it. "I don't care about power, but I'll fight whoever wants to snatch the position of the eldest senior sister. A few days ago, it was my daughter-in-law's birthday. I made a reservation at a restaurant, bought flowers, and a cake, and had a happy day. But today, she suddenly asked me, it seems that you didn't give me a birthday present?" Oh, women's thoughts are so strange. Are those not considered gifts? I was so angry that I raised my leg and kicked wildly, only stopping when my knees hurt. Humph. I'll buy a keyboard tomorrow. Chapter 1408. Putting aside the residents of Nine Supremes' disciples' intention to target the Qian family, the residents of Nine Supremes had a few more days of free time. As the leader of the residents of Nine Supremes, Yun Yang naturally had to accompany the guests of the highest rank. However, he had only accompanied Dongfang Haoren and the others for half a morning on the first day before he fled as if his butt was on fire. There was no other reason other than that these old fellows were too ruthless. On the first night, Shiman Fafu, who was supposed to keep the secret to himself, had, for some reason, told Dongfang Haoren and Beigong Liuli about Yun Yang's brilliant idea, like he was presenting a treasure. The two palace lords' eyes turned green at once. How could they not be tempted? The scarcity of offspring had always been the common sorrow of strong cultivators. There were few exceptions. As long as a martial artist had cultivated to the level of immortal mystic, he would inevitably step into the stage of refining essence into qi. The essence was not enough for his own use, so there was no way he could use it elsewhere. It was also because of this that it was difficult to have children. As one cultivated to the level of saint, one was even more particular about having a flawless physical body, not allowing any leakage of one's spiritual energy. The mystical qi in one's body would circulate naturally, turning the innate qi of essence into one's own spiritual energy. Naturally, it was even more impossible for one to have children. In such a situation, one had to at least break through the level of saint and reach the level of starry sky to be able to control one's own spiritual qi as easily as one's own arm. This was the so-called 100% accuracy. However, when one had reached that level, not many would care about the matter of male and female children. Dongfang Haoren and the other old fellows were still far from that level. It was said that people of different generations were related to each other, but this saying only applied to ordinary families. To the pinnacle experts of this world who lived for tens of thousands of years, how many children and grandchildren did they have? Not to mention grandchildren, even if they had grandchildren 100 generations away, they would still have a big family. Why would they need to kiss? Therefore, the ones that parents were truly worried about were their own children. The reason why Dongfang Xingchen, Shimen Huanyu, and the rest of them were pampered to the point of being out of control and doing things without the slightest scruple, was because, when they were already peak experts, they would suddenly win the lottery due to being drunk, or for some other reason. Getting a son by accident was the main reason. However, Yun Yang's solution was to control the origin of life force, which had always been an accident and a possibility, and turn it into a controllable action. I don't intend to force you. Just the same amount will do. Dongfang Haoren's hawk-like eyes stared at Yun Yang. Even that old thief Shimen Fengfu has 10, how can I, your older brother Dongfang, have less than 10. This old man also only needs 10. Beigong Liuli said fiercely, this old man is known for his fiendish ways. This time, I'll go for the fiendish way. If I lose even half, I might have to fight you. Alright, alright. You're trying to kidnap me out of friendship and threaten me with force. I can't afford to offend you, so I'll just give in, alright? The two villains cornered Yun Yang in a corner. No matter how wise Yun Yang was, he was helpless against these two men who had their own opinions and would not be swayed by external factors. Sighing helplessly, he could only grit his teeth and give them 10 strips each. With the treasures in their hands, the two palace lords left in satisfaction. They abandoned a certain someone like an old shoe, as if they were throwing them away after using them. Nighttime. Midnight. Dongfang Haoran quietly entered Yun Yang's room. Quickly, give me 10 more strips. What? Yun Yang's fox face grew long as his eyes widened in utter disbelief. What kind of relationship do I have with you, old brother? How can I be treated the same as these two? Dongfang Haoran's words were righteous. It was as if it was not enough to show his status without additional treatment. Yun Yang argued with reason and tried his best with his tongue. However, Dongfang Haoran saw that he could not win with words, so he directly threatened him with force. Sect leader Yun, who was easily captured, lowered his head and agreed to the humiliating terms, giving up another 10 strips. Dongfang Haoran left in satisfaction. Yun Yang cursed for a long time to vent his anger. Damn old thing, I'm lucky that my wife isn't by my side and that I can't eat them now. If they were, if this old thing barged in, wouldn't it be? Yun Yang cursed, but he was helpless. This was the most direct portrayal of the situation being stronger than the person, but one's strength was inferior. The next day, Yun Yang came to the small yard whereby Bingxian stayed. Compared to other places, this place was much livelier. The 5 whiteys were hopping around, unusually lively. The big black bear from the beast trainer sect was lying lazily under a big tree, its body flickering and emitting a strange light. Its form was that of a big black bear for a moment, then a brawny man for a moment. It kept changing back and forth, its 2 large eyes were filled with innocence and depression. What's wrong with him? Yun Yang asked curiously. I don't know how he cultivated the shape-shifting technique. He's never been able to achieve it. He's tried for a long time, but he's still in a deadlock between the 2 forms. He can't maintain a fixed form, and can only maintain the form of a black bear. By Bingxian frowned, he's already a 3rd-level Supreme Saint but still can't shape-shift completely. How embarrassing. Yun Yang was stunned when he heard Bai Bingshuan's explanation. He had never heard of such a thing. When it came to the shape-shifting of mystical beasts, Yun Yang did have the right to speak. The days he had stayed in Tianfa Holy Land were not for nothing. The mystical beasts in Tianfa Holy Land could try shape-shifting once they reached the level of Supreme. Venerable and Saint were even in their human form. If one did not know them well, one would not be able to tell that something was amiss. Why was this person from the residence of 9 Supremes still unable to shape-shift completely even though he had already reached the level of Supreme? What was going on? Ignoring the 5 whiteys that were jumping around him, Yun Yang sent Whitey 2 to find the Beast Kings. Not long after, Bear King arrived and was shocked when he saw the state of the black bear. A black bear that could not shape-shift even after reaching the level of Supreme Saint was unheard of, even in Tianfa Holy Land. Bear King approached the black bear and touched it twice, thinking for a long time. After a while, he scratched his head and said in a seemingly enlightened manner, I know where this fellow's problem lies. His cultivation method is fundamentally wrong. Of course, he can't shape-shift completely. The black bear's eyes widened in confusion as he casually recounted his origins. Beast Trainer Sect? Bear King was furious. You've been framed by that sect. One of your beast souls has been destroyed. Of course, you can't shapeshift successfully. Yunyang was puzzled and asked hurriedly. When beast trainer sect domesticates mystical beasts, they have to eliminate the beast's wild nature to prevent it from devouring its master. Therefore, at the beginning of taming the beast, they use a unique mystic art to extract a part of the target beast's soul and refine it. Only then can the target beast be obedient. However, his situation is different. The person who extracted his soul and refined it has long passed away. He said that the lost part of his soul is destined to never be found. He has no hope of shape-shifting. Bear King's face was full of sorrow and resentment. Mystical beasts had been guarding the holy land of Tianfa for countless years, constantly fighting against the demon race and guarding the door for the bound of universe humans. However, on the other side of the bound of universe, there were countless humans who kept mystical beasts as pets, tools of war, slaves, or mounts. When had there ever been true fairness in this world? Hearing Bear King's explanation, his assertion that he had no hope of shape-shifting in this lifetime, the black bear looked hopeless. Ever since he came to the residence of 9 Supremes, his cultivation base had been improving by leaps and bounds. The black bear was naturally elated. However, no matter how much his cultivation base had broken through and reached an unusually high level, he had never been able to shape-shift. This had long puzzled him. Only now did he finally understand. Yunyang frowned and asked, "Is there really no other way?" Bear King sighed. "Unless he can break through to the saint level. When he reaches the saint level, he can naturally reshape his soul. At that time, he can shape-shift however he wants without any constraints. However, his soul is incomplete, so the difficulty of breaking through to the saint level is many times more difficult than ordinary people. The prospects are not optimistic." As soon as he said this, the despair on the black bear's face intensified, almost as if he had nothing left to live for. Yunyang, on the other hand, was relieved. He laughed and said, "The residence of 9 Supremes does not lack spiritual chi and treasures of heaven and earth. Old Black, just concentrate on your cultivation. No matter what you lack in terms of cultivation resources, I'll make up for it. Cultivating to the saint level may not be an unreachable thing. Don't worry, I have full confidence in making you a saint." "Are you serious?" Not only the black bear, but even Bear King's eyes were shining. Yunyang laughed. "Facts speak louder than words. Haven't you all seen the current situation of the residents of 9 Supremes? Especially me, do you only care about whether my cultivation speed is fast or not?" After saying this, he did not speak anymore, only letting the black bear cultivate in peace and work hard. However, the symbolic meaning of this sentence was enough. The cultivation atmosphere of the residence of 9 Supremes might not be unique in this world, but it was at least the best. Furthermore, how long had it been since Yunyang entered the Tao? At the very most, it had only been a dozen to 20 years. If he could get Yunyang's guidance, his future would not only be promising, it would be extremely promising and limitless. The black bear cheered, his previous dejected look vanishing as he went back to his cave to cultivate like a gust of wind. Bear King, on the other hand, followed behind Yunyang with eyes full of admiration, flashing a flattering smile from time to time. He had personally taken Brother Yun's medicine before. It was truly miraculous. "We're on the same side, there's no need to be polite. If there's any good medicine, I'll send it to you specially, without a second word." Patting Bear King's shoulder and making a promise, Bear King left in satisfaction. "I've gained a lot from my trip to the demon race this time. Not only did I see His Majesty the 9 Lives Cat, but I also helped him escape." Only Yunyang and Bai Bingshuan's clansmen were left. Yunyang did not keep them in suspense anymore and went straight to the point. When Bai Bingxian and her clansmen heard such great news, they sat up straight at once, the light in their eyes startling Yunyang. Facing such longing gazes, Yunyang quickly recounted the whole process in detail. When she heard that not only had the 9 Lives Cat escaped, but he had also begun to regroup with the help of Cat Lady and the others, preparing to counterattack the demon court, Bai Bingxian was already sobbing. His Majesty the 9 Lives Cat has become my sworn brother, so, you can stay here with peace of mind in the future. One day, when we go back and reunite, the 9 Lives Cat clan will be glorious again. Yunyang sighed softly. That was what he said. However, if the 9 Lives Cat failed to counterattack the demon court, the best outcome for Bai Bingxian and the others was to stay in the residence of 9 Supremes. Yunyang took out the jade pendant of the 9 Lives Cat ancestor and let Bai Bingxian and the others worship it. Then, he took out the secret cultivation method of the cat clan that the 9 Lives Cat had asked him to bring and handed it to Bai Bingxian. Yunyang then got up and left. However, the eyes of Bai Bingxian and the others behind him were bright. After Yunyang left, all the cats did not even close their eyes for a few days. The unprecedented excitement that felt like they were about to explode made them sleepless all night. Due to the change, the Whiteys also gained some luck. They followed Bai Bingxian to cultivate the top-notch secret method of the cat clan. Naturally, their abilities grew rapidly day by day. Most of the time, they specialized in their respective professions. Only then could their progress be unstoppable and unstoppable. Other than the 5 Whiteys, Gigi was also released by Yunyang. This ugly bird that was rarely seen in history was still staring at a scaly head. More than half of the feathers on its body had grown out, but its head was still bald. There were only 3 hairs on the top of its head that glowed like flames. It was the only bright spot on its image. However, Gigi's bright spot was not just this. Other than moving faster than before, coming and going like lightning, it was almost traceless and traceless. It also had the superior ability to shatter the void and travel thousands of miles in an instant. With this astonishing speed, Gigi had the absolute upper hand in the battle against the Whiteys. Even when a few Whiteys joined forces to attack it, it was still not at a disadvantage. This was because the Whiteys had received systematic learning and their abilities had increased greatly. In addition, there was the innate tacit understanding of their bloodline. If Gigi could make up for its lack of combat experience, the attacking power it could unleash would be difficult for the Whiteys to resist even if they joined forces. When it was cornered, it could spit a ball of flame from its mouth and burn everything, including heaven and earth. In Yunyang's opinion, Gigi's combat power was top-notch even in the entire bound of universe. The Whiteys' individual abilities were at least at the pinnacle of Supreme Saint. The fact that Gigi could fight them alone and not be at a disadvantage was already a clear indication of its ability. In addition, Gigi's appearance meant that it was not fully developed yet. This knowledge made Yunyang feel that this little fellow was extraordinary. Whether it was its origin, ability, foundation, or potential, it was extraordinary. In view of this, it was better to let this little fellow experience more battles, no matter how difficult it was to improve by staying in the deific consciousness space. Otherwise, Gigi, who lacked combat power, would inevitably be at a disadvantage in a real battle. Combat power did not equate to actual combat results. This had been proven in countless wars. However, Gigi's appearance had thrown the residents of 9 Supremes into chaos. Chapter 1409. First of all, Gigi was just too ugly. It was so ugly that it could shock the world. The feathers on its body were not bad, but the moment everyone looked at it, all they saw was its bald head and neck, nothing else. Secondly, Gigi was not only ugly, it was arrogant. Other than Yunyang, its eyes were slanted at everyone it looked at, its face full of disdain. Not only humans, but other mystical beasts were not even worthy of its attention. Only the few Whiteys could catch its attention. That was because they had been playmates since they were young. Otherwise, even the Whiteys would not be able to maintain their pride. Its arrogant aura was clearly saying, you lot think you're worthy of playing with me? Who am I? What are you lot? Humph. How could such an attitude, coupled with its appearance, not be detestable? Moreover, this fellow had relied on the speed of his movement skill to scurry everywhere, fully aware that the residence of 9 Supremes was his own backyard. The reason why the residence of 9 Supremes was said to be its backyard was because, in Yun Yang's opinion, this fellow had treated the entire heaven and earth as its private property. The residence of 9 Supremes was its most private property, so it cherished it and would not destroy it. Noon. The Beast Kings of Tian Fa Holy Land were having their meal. Compared to other places, the amount of food these fellows ate could only be described as terrifying. For example, a person would be full after eating 2 steamed buns. However, these fellows ate 20 each, and it was only an appetizer. Therefore, the food provided to them was not only huge, but the taste was exceptionally rich. With their status as Beast Kings, they never lacked food. However, the food provided by the residents of 9 Supremes this time was not only filled with spiritual ingredients, but was also meticulously prepared. Naturally, they were even more elated, enjoying themselves so much that they did not want to go home. However, following the sound of rushing wind, an unbelievably ugly bird hurriedly flew in and landed on the table with an air of arrogance. It seemed to be pretending to be reserved as it walked a few steps on the food. Its neck tilted to the side and snatched a piece of snow spirit chicken from the Eagle King's mouth. It pecked at it with disdain and threw away the part that the Eagle King had bitten off. Then, it stretched its neck and swallowed the rest of the chicken. Then, in the blink of an eye, he opened his mouth and spat out a huge pile of chicken bones. There wasn't even a shred of meat left on them. After that, he looked at the bones with a look of disdain. He looked at the Eagle King with an extremely disdainful gaze, as if to say, "There are so many bones, and you still want to eat them? How tasteless." All the Beast Kings at the scene were stunned by this sudden turn of events. Looking at this uninvited bird, he was dumbfounded, not knowing what to do. Damn it! Even if we eat fish, we can't eat so fast, can we? What kind of bird is this? Just from the way he ate, he was already stronger than many people, able to do what others couldn't. GG. GG. GG stared at the Eagle King with its round eyes, pointing at the basin full of snow spirit chickens with its claws. Can't you have some eyesight? Hurry up and bring this daddy another one. Then, it pointed at the bones and said, "While you're at it, remove all the bones for this daddy." The Eagle King stared at this fellow for a long time and suddenly felt a wave of anger. Damn it, this daddy here is the king of the eagles. Who doesn't respect me 30% and fear me 70%? Why did a bald bird suddenly appear and actually want this daddy to serve him chicken? Does he think this king is a slave? He opened his hand and grabbed towards the Eagle King as he scolded, "Where did this stupid bird come from?" GG was enraged and with a twist of its neck, its beak had already landed on the Eagle King's hand. With a "pu" sound, a transparent bloody hole appeared in front of its eyes and fresh blood flowed out. The Eagle King let out a low grunt. This sudden turn of events was far beyond the expectations of all the Beast Kings present, causing them to be dumbfounded. In the beginning, everyone had planned to watch the show. None of these Beast Kings had given their food away for free, so they had instantly guessed that this slow bird was most likely a certain bird from the residence of 9 Supremes. They were all gloating to see how the Eagle King was going to deal with this, but they did not really take this bird seriously. Even when they saw the bird's quick reflexes, they did not think much of it. After all, in the face of an absolute difference in strength, even if the bird reacted in time, the so-called counterattack was nothing more than an ant trying to shake a tree. However, who could actually touch it? Instead, it was the Eagle King who had suffered a great loss. Was this an ant trying to shake a tree? What level was the Eagle King's cultivation base? Even if there was a possibility of being caught off guard, with the Eagle King's strength, even if he did not circulate his cultivation and just lay there, allowing a few Saint Emperors and beginner Saint Venerables to attack him as they pleased, even with the help of divine weapons, they might not be able to cause any damage. But it was such a strong physique that with a turn of its head and a peck from this bird, the bird had actually pecked through the Eagle King's hand. If you had not seen it with your own eyes, would you have believed it? What was this bird's beak made of? How could it be so domineering? The Eagle King's heart was in agony as he flew into a rage. His other hand channeled his cultivation base and clawed downwards. The sound of wind and thunder reverberated in the air, its aura terrifying. However, Ji wasn't afraid in the slightest. With a shrill cry, it flapped its wings, turned its head, and pecked at the Eagle King's hand. Right at the instant the Eagle King was about to grab it, Ji casually swung its sharp beak, tore through space, and then vanished without a trace. All that was left in the air was a mocking cry, Ji. There was a bloody hole in each of the Eagle King's hands. Blood dripped everywhere. All the Beast Kings looked at each other, their hearts filled with shock and confusion. What kind of bird was this? Was it not too impressive? Even if the Eagle King had been careless the first time and did not use much strength, it had used almost all of its strength the second time. How could it still be pecked through like that? Ji returned to Yun Yang's room familiarly after making a big round. It stood on Yun Yang's shoulder and tidied its feathers with its beak. It looked as if nothing had happened. It had a bald head and a bald neck, its large eyes filled with arrogance. It was extremely ugly. What bird is this? Ji Lingxi frowned and said in disdain, "Why is it so ugly?" Ji cried angrily. "How dare you call me ugly?" With a swoosh, Ji dashed out, charging out of inertia. "Even if you're my master's wife, I have to teach you a lesson." "No," Yun Yang only managed to shout once before he heard Ji Lingxi cry out in shock. Then, the red light that Yun Yang was exceptionally familiar with flashed. With a shriek, Ji Lingxi bounced back at a speed that was faster than the speed at which she had charged out. It landed in front of Yun Yang's chest with a loud thud. Then, it slid off Yun Yang like a pile of mud, its eyes lifeless as it cried out, "Ji." There was no more movement after that. The creature had been domineering for the entire morning and had finally met its nemesis. It was a direct collision. Yun Yang, who was affected by the force as if he had been struck by a powerful blow, felt his vision darken as his blood and qi churned. He mustered the endless divine art to calm the impact. After a while, he focused his gaze and saw that at least 80 to 90% of Ji's bones were broken, even its neck was broken. It looked like it was going to die soon. He could not help but chuckle humorlessly. "You really don't have eyes. How dare you provoke just about anyone? You've hit the wall now. I really owe you all." Despite his words, he was in a hurry to save Ji. Although Ji was definitely of extraordinary birth and had great potential, it depended on who it was compared to. Going head-on against Ji Lingxi's protective spiritual light was like throwing an egg against a rock, seeking its own death. Ji Lingxi looked at Ji in shock. "What bird is this?" "So." She wanted to say, "How can it be so fast?" She wanted to say, "So strong?" Of course, it was strong. Up until now, no one had survived Ji Lingxi's protective divine light except for Yun Yang. There was no exception, even for Saint Lords. Now that this little bird had attacked at such a high speed, it had suffered the most direct counterattack. Yet, it had not perished on the spot. This was already a great opportunity. Perhaps it was because the bird's attack was too fast, but Ji Lingxi could still feel the pain despite the protective divine light's immediate counterattack. In the past, no matter who attacked it, it did not feel anything with the protection of the divine light. This rule had been broken by a little bird. Besides, it was obvious that the bird had not used its full strength. This was the main reason it had not died from the counterattack. It was obvious that it only wanted to teach it a lesson. What the F***ck was this? Yunyang chuckled bitterly as he healed Gigi. You've seen this fellow before, it's Xiao Qiu, the bird I took in the lower realm. Ji Lingxi was hit with a sudden realization. An ugly bird that's still a fledgling. Isn't it too ugly? Gigi, who was on the ground, cried weakly. It had just been saved by Yun Yang's infusion of spiritual energy, and now it was being called ugly. Gigi was even angrier. I hate it when people call me ugly. How am I ugly? I'm the most handsome. Alright. You're only a bird. Where did your pride come from? It's fine to show off in front of others, but forget about it in front of my wife. You could easily lose your life, no, your bird's life. Yunyang pointed his finger at Gigi's head and scolded it helplessly. Gigi cried weakly and defiantly. However, its beady eyes that were looking at Ji Lingxi were already shining with fear. This human is too strong, I can't beat him. Even Yunyang did not have such an understanding towards him. Heh, now you know what's good, don't you? Let's see if you still dare to show off. Yunyang chided jokingly. Ji Lingxi and Shengguan Lingxiu, on the other hand, were greatly interested in the bird as they gathered around it. What kind of bird is this? Ji Lingxi said in surprise, it's obviously not fully grown yet, but even if it's a phoenix, it might not be able to do this in its infancy. It's the first anomaly to withstand the counterattack of my divine light of defense and come out unscathed so far. Shengguan Lingxiu nodded in agreement. It had only begun to grow feathers now. This was not even past the limit of its infancy, yet it already possessed such terrifying abilities. If he really grew up, he would definitely become a sage. Even, it was not impossible for him to reach the starry sky level. After all, the source of the divine light of defense was an unfathomable and immeasurable level. The two girls squatted in front of Gigi, glancing at it from top to bottom and left to right. The more they looked at it, the more they liked it. Let me tell you, these people in front of you are all on the same side, people you can't afford to offend. If you lay a hand on your own people in the future, it's not that I won't forgive you, it's that you're digging your own grave. Yunyang warned sternly. Then, he used his mental energy to intimidate the bird. Yunyang realized that the bird's wild nature had yet to be tamed. It was fortunate that it had attacked Ji Lingxi this time and was repelled by the red light. What if it had attacked someone else? Wouldn't it have been killed on the spot? It would not do if he did not impose some rules on it. Gigi shrunk its neck in fear. Yunyang reprimanded it harshly for half a quarter of an hour. Gigi lowered its head, flapped its wings, and lay on the ground with its neck tilted. It looked so miserable that it no longer dared to attack. Only then did Yunyang stop. Stop pretending to be pitiful. If there's a next time, I'll break your wings and break your claws. I'll even pluck out the feathers on your head. Yunyang was only halfway through his treatment when he started scolding the bird. Gigi looked extremely pathetic and pitiful. Ji Lingxi's heart softened as she said softly, I'll take care of it. Let it know some rules. Yunyang thought about it and said, all right. He would not be at ease if he handed this bird over to someone else. Watching Ji Lingxi's outstretched hand, Gigi shrieked in terror. No! Don't hand me over to this woman. It's too scary. Yunyang ignored it and watched as Ji Lingxi picked up the little fellow and brought him away. As soon as Gigi left, countless people rushed into Yunyang's room. Dong Qitian, Shi Wuchen, the Beast Kings, and even Yun Xiuxin and other disciples, as well as a few temple masters, all rushed in. Where's that despicable bird? Everyone shouted in unison, burning with rage. Yun Yang's eyes widened. What was going on? After asking around, he found out that this fellow had actually turned the residence of 9 Supremes upside down in the short 2 hours he had let it out. Luo Dajiang's treasured saber had a big hole pecked through it, and Yun Xiaoxin and Cheng Jiejia's skirts had a hole pecked through their butts. Now, the 2 female disciples were embarrassed, angry, and in pain, covering their butts in rage. Zhang Wufei's jade pendant had also been snatched away. Dong Qitian was cultivating at first. He had just taken out a mysterious ice-fire lotus and was about to swallow it to aid his cultivation when the fellow had snatched it away and eaten it. Infuriated, Dong Qitian gave chase at top speed. However, he was caught off guard by a certain bird's space-tearing ability. Not only did the bird manage to escape, it almost fell into the crack in the void. Shi Wuchen had taken out a pot of medicinal pills for his disciples, but before they could accept it, it had already been snatched away by a certain bird that had appeared out of nowhere. As for the Beast Kings, it was even more obvious. The Eagle King's bloodied hands were a clear indication of what had happened. For a moment, Yun Yang felt a headache coming on. Was this still a bird? It was clearly a troublemaker. Faced with the public's anger, Yun Yang showed a rare and shameful cowardice. He asked with a confused expression, "What bird? What are you talking about?" Zhang Wufei frowned. Is that indescribably ugly bird not sect leader Yun's pet? Yun Yang did not know whether to laugh or cry. What are you talking about, Temple Master Zhan? Yun Yang refused to admit it. It was better for him to feign ignorance and deal with the current situation first. In the end, the crowd could only disperse in confusion. Could it be that the bird was really not his pet? The Beast Kings were simple-minded, believing Yun Yang's denial. After all, Yun Yang held a special place in their hearts. They did not believe that he would fool them. In spite of this, Zhang Wufei and the rest were grumbling inwardly. As the saying goes, everything takes after its owner. The bird is like the person. That bird's behavior is extremely despicable and shameless. It's like Lord Supreme Cloud's twin. I don't believe that the bird has nothing to do with Yun Yang. There was nothing much to do today, so I was quietly drinking in a corner, but this bunch of bastards came looking for trouble. In a fit of rage, I carried a bottle of wine and went to 3 tables in a row. They were all drunk, but I didn't even bat an eyelid. If it wasn't for some bastard who insisted on drinking from my bottle, they wouldn't have realized that it was mineral water. I was beaten up, but it was worth it. Chapter 14:10. 3 days passed in the blink of an eye. During these 3 days, it was peaceful on the surface, but undercurrents were surging and brewing. However, Dongfang Haoran and the other 3, who were not bothered by anything, were living a carefree life. With their status, it was naturally difficult for them to gather together. Now, in the residence of 9 Supremes, the 4 of them gathered together, drinking and chatting, expressing their happiness and worries. They drank for 3 days and 3 nights before their mood finally waned. In these short 3 days, the 4 of them felt as if they had finished talking about the things that they had been talking about for tens of thousands of years. They clearly had 1,000 words to say, but they could not say a single word. Even though they were still sitting together, they could only stare at each other. Most likely, they had nothing to say anymore. The feeling of being speechless was, of course, unpleasant, but the 4 holy sons of the Heaven Palace who came with them felt even more negative. It could be said that among the outsiders in the residence of 9 Supremes, the Qian family was the one who felt the most uncomfortable, followed by the 4 holy sons. These 4 people stayed in the residence of 9 Supremes. Of course, they were well treated, but they were extremely unhappy and uncomfortable, as if there was a knife hanging on their necks that could be chopped off at any time. Their palace lord was nearby, and it was the gathering of the 4 top experts in the world, but it still did not give them much sense of security. Lai Guangfeng, who had never had nightmares, had actually dreamt of his own senior and junior brothers being brutally beaten to a pulp by Yun Yang. He was so frightened that he could not stop screaming in his dream. He was utterly humiliated. Fortunately, these 3 days had finally passed. The disciples of the residents of 9 Supremes began to send out notices one by one. They reached all the hall masters and divine lords. The main peak of the residents of 9 Supremes began to gather again. Those who attended this time were the top figures in the entire bound of Yellow Continent. Obviously, the residents of 9 Supremes had follow-up plans, and today was the day it would begin. When Qian Shengjin arrived, he first greeted the 4 rulers respectfully. Then, starting from Zhan Wufei, he greeted them one by one, lowering his attitude. Even when he was treated coldly, Qian Shengjin's attitude did not change at all, remaining peaceful and comfortable. This clan leader Qian, who had been living a smooth life for many days, was angered by someone one day, causing him to commit a huge mistake. The situation had changed drastically. However, after he realized the mistake he had made, he immediately adjusted his mentality, and in the shortest amount of time, he displayed astonishing action. He did his best, humbled himself, and even tried his best to make up for it with a humble attitude. Even Yun Yang was touched when he saw it. If it wasn't for Qian Duo, I probably wouldn't have had the intention to kill this family leader Qian. I might even have cooperated. Yun Yang sighed softly and told Ji Lingxi telepathically. Ji Lingxi nodded faintly. This person is very rare. Yun Yang nodded and said, this person's state of mind is exceptional. You must know that the Qian family is one of the top 3 aristocratic families in the world, the possessor of the golden celestial luck banner. Their position is not below the other halls. After he became the clan leader, everything went smoothly for him. His position was high and powerful, and he looked down on the world. It goes without saying. It's also because of this superior mentality that he was angered by your shallow tricks and made the mistake. However, when he calmed down and regained his clarity of mind, he immediately abandoned his superior mentality and placed himself in the mud. He used all the ways he could to beg for the understanding of all parties. He knew that if these people held grudges, he would never be able to return to his original superior position. Just from this magnanimity and state of mind, he can already be considered a top-notch talent. Yun Yang watched as Qian Shengjin mingled with the hall masters and divine lords, smiling humbly at them and nodding occasionally to express his goodwill. He was neither servile nor overbearing as he participated in the countless exchanges of topics with a relatively humble attitude. He was still adept at what was said and did what was asked of him. Perhaps this relatively humble and neither servile nor overbearing attitude was very strange in the eyes of others, but here, Qian Shengjin displayed it incisively and vividly, causing one to gasp in amazement, and it was a spectacle. No matter what the topic was, I was able to participate in it. Then, I clearly showed that I was inferior to everyone here, but I still had the right to participate in it, absolutely. Even Zhan Wufei was transmitting his voice to Yun Yang. How did the Qian family offend you? Yun Yang was silent for a moment before replying, there's no turning back in this matter, but you can choose to stay out of it. The Qian family is working hard, but I must seek justice for the grudge between them and my brother. This was Yun Yang's attitude. Zhan Wufei sighed and said nothing more. This time, the venue of the meeting was specially chosen for the martial arts practice field. Everyone was sitting on a chair carved from amethyst. There was no distinction between the nobility or the lowly status. It was a grand and imposing scene. Only the seats of the 4 rulers were placed at the front. Although they stood out from the crowd, no one dared to comment. The curtains slowly opened. Appearing on the stage, Yun Yang first cupped his fists and bowed before saying, I've abruptly asked all of you to stay because the residence of 9 Supremes has now improved to a new level. Because of this, Yun Yang has a presumptuous request. It's here. The 4 hall masters of the East Celestial Palace paled when they heard him. What was to come would come. Had the thing they feared the most finally come? Dongfang Haoren smiled and said, "The residence of 9 Supreme's great improvement is obvious to all. This is a good thing, a blessing for the bound of universe. Although the residence of 9 Supremes was founded not long ago, we've enjoyed the current glory due to various circumstances. We want to go one step further and seize the position of the gold-class celestial luck banner. Coincidentally, the 4 rulers are here. Please be our witnesses and preside over the ceremony of ascension and the ranking battle." Yun Yang said with a faint smile. Everyone already knew about this, and what was happening now was just a formality. With Yun Yang's cultivation base of a half-step saint, it would be inexcusable if the sect he founded could not get a share of the gold-class celestial luck banner. Moreover, the residence of 9 Supremes had more than one saint emperor after the reuniting ceremony a few days ago. Apart from Chu Yunyang, there were other pinnacle 4th-grade saint emperors keeping watch. Their strength was unrivaled among all the sects with gold celestial luck banners. Dongfang Haoren and the others all smiled. Shimen Fanfu opened his mouth to help. This is truly a fortunate matter for mysterious Yellow World. We are all here to witness this grand occasion, and we are happy to see it happen. No one questioned it, and the decision was made. Of course, the residents of 9 Supremes can go one step further, but we can't break the convention of ascension of the bound of yellow celestial luck banner. Everything must be done according to the old rule of ascension. The residents of 9 Supremes will first face the Sacred Soul Palace, one of the 4 palaces. If we can't even get through this, there's no need to mention anything. Hall Master Guan, do you have anything to say? Dongfang Haoren turned and asked. Zhan Wufei roared excitedly, Old Guan, fight it out with the residents of 9 Supremes. Let this junior know the strength of a gold-class celestial luck banner sect. The other 2 hall masters were equally fired up. Old Guan. You can't be a coward. We can't lose the honor. That's right. Fight to the end. Guan Mai looked at Zhan Wufei and the other 2 hall masters as if he wanted to eat them alive. He had been colleagues for a long time, and he had long known that these 3 old men were not good people. Now, his understanding was even more thorough and profound. Are they encouraging me to defend my title? Or do they want to see me lose face? Get beaten up? Your father's cultivation base is only a first-tier beginner saint emperor. You want me to fight Yun Yang, a half-saint, to the end? Not to mention Yun Yang, even those saint emperors under Yun Yang. Although they were newly promoted, was he sure that he could defeat them? Once the residents of 9 Supremes' challenge began, the outcome was already decided. It was certain that he would be utterly humiliated. After all, the residents of 9 Supremes now had 9 saint emperors. How was he going to defend his title? What was he going to do? Yun Yang, a half-saint, what was he going to do? And, that old man who had appeared out of nowhere. No matter how he looked at it, he was more intimidating than some pinnacle saint emperors. Where did this fellow come from? In fact, not only Guan Mai, but even Dongfang Haoren and the others' eyes lit up the moment Dong Qitian appeared. In spite of it, they had long made up their minds about Dong Qitian's existence. After all, it was this person's ascension that caused the gathering of the spiritual qi of heaven and earth to be delayed for another hour during the residence of 9 Supremes' reuniting ceremony. Hence, all the big bosses had to pay more attention. Yun Yang said with a smile, Hall Leader Guan, let's discuss the format and number of matches. What do you think? Guan Mai rolled his eyes and said, Supreme Yun is too courteous. There's no need to discuss this. Yun Yang wore a puzzled look on his face. Guan Mai took a breath and said straightforwardly, the residence of 9 Supremes is powerful. Sacred Soul Palace admits that it's no match for them, so we admit defeat and withdraw from the gold celestial luck banners. We'll make way for Supreme Yun. Hearing Guan Mai's words, the other 3 hall masters immediately let loose a torrent of abuse. The entire hall was filled with curses, and the boos were even louder. Damn you, Guan Mai, you're too much. How could you admit defeat without even fighting? Where's your shame? Where's the dignity of the 4 hall leaders? We still want you to feel out the residents of 9 Supremes. If there's a chance, and Sacred Soul Palace wins 1 or 2 matches by luck, it may not affect the grand plan, or even the overall situation, but it's always good for us. Everyone has long determined that Sacred Soul Palace will lose, but if you can win a match, you'll block residents of 9 Supremes' way forward. The rules for the promotion of the Gold Celestial Luck banner were no different from those of other Celestial Luck banners. It was also possible to challenge continuously, but it had to be built on the basis of winning every match. As long as it's not a complete victory, we'll keep our position. There's no need to fight anymore. I didn't expect this bastard to admit defeat. King open the door slightly and make way for us to move forward. Why can't you be more literary? Can you be any more melodramatic? Why don't you just say that you can fight them and don't fight me? Among them, Yu Wubian, the leader of Sacred Divine Palace, was particularly angry. After Sacred Soul Palace admitted defeat, it would be his turn next. Facing residents of 9 Supremes, whose combat power was complete and whose trump card had not been revealed. Seeing Yunyang glance over, Yu Wubian sucked in a deep breath, gritted his teeth, and stomped his feet. Sacred Divine Palace admits defeat. He had already understood that most of today's incident was Zhang Wufei's doing. Why did he have to bring all his men here to see their strength? Now, it looked like he was asking for a beating. You, Zhang Wufei, want your father to help you block residents of 9 Supremes' way forward and reap the benefits? No way. If I go down a level, you'll go down a level too. You want to be alone? Dream on, wishful thinking. CK. Zhang Wufei cursed. Are all of you still men? You're admitting defeat without even fighting? Where's your shame? Where's your pride? Thanks to the 2 leaders of the other 2 halls, it's Sacred Heart Palace's turn next. I have a deep friendship with Hall Leader Zhan, and we've even gone through life and death together. I seem to have even saved Hall Leader Zhan's life once. I wonder how Hall Leader Zhan wants to fight? Zhang Wufei's eyes widened, speechless. Shameless. You've said in front of so many people that you've saved my life before. You've saved my life and you still want me to talk about how to fight? Let's not talk about anything else. As long as I say fight now, no matter who wins or loses, they will become a laughing stock tomorrow. This is how Zhang Wufei treats his savior. This person, you have to be careful before you save him. Don't save an ingrate, only to be devoured the next moment. This is only if Sacred Heart Palace wins. If Sacred Heart Palace loses in the end, the situation will be even worse. Zhang Wufei knows that he's no match for his savior, but he still wants to fight with his life on the line, and still loses in the end. This man is blinded by greed, utterly shameless and despicable. Do I still have the face to live? Zhang Wufei stuttered for a long time, unable to utter a single word. Yunyang said, "What's wrong with Hall Leader? Could it be that Hall Leader has remembered the debt between us?" Zhang Wufei was even more dumbfounded and speechless. "You're King threatening me like this, aren't you? If I don't admit defeat on the spot, you're going to ask me for the debt. How can you do this? Where's your dignity as the residents of 9 Supremes Hall Leader? Sacred Heart Palace admits defeat." Zhang Wufei pondered for a moment, gritting his teeth and glaring at Yunyang, finally admitting defeat. Thank you, Hall Master Zhan, you're too kind. When we're done drinking later, we must spar with each other. We must invite the seniors from the Sacred Heart Palace. Let's have some fun together. Coincidentally, there are so many people here, I'm sure they'd all like to watch a good show. As soon as he said this, the crowd erupted into an unprecedented frenzy. Spar? That's a great idea. Zhang Wufei's gaze that was initially fixed on Yunyang turned into a fawning one. He chuckled and said, "It's reasonable for Lord Supreme Cloud to want the palace-level celestial luck banner. There's no need for a spar, let's just drink until we're full. Lord Supreme Cloud has made a huge contribution to the bound of universe. I believe that anyone with a bit of conscience will not stand in front of Lord Supreme Cloud. I'm willing to open the residence of 9 Supreme's door for Lord Supreme Cloud and make way for you to move forward. I'm so happy that I'm about to cry." You're tuning into the Xiaofan's Wuxia Tales YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.